Awesome. A very good morning, warriors. Welcome to not officially the first class, but let's say officially the technical first class of your CA final direct access. For those who lazy asses who have not seen the orientation classes, my name is Rahul and I take direct access for about 5 years right now. Yes, but I've been in this teaching field. Yeah, I've been teaching direct access for about 4, but I've been working on direct access for about 8 years right now, including my articleship in Deloitte and post qualification Deloitte with a new role right now as the head of tax in another company with a 4,000 crores turnover. So that's my brief profile. Yeah, I am not going to be wasting telling you the same things I've done in the orientation. For those who lazy are, please watch the orientation, you'll watch it there. But I'll give you a small thing before we take up for the next classes. Couple of things which you need to carry from the next class is what? You need a black pen mandatory. Next. You need a calculator, obviously. Next. Highlighter. Okay, one highlighter. Next. I have given you the materials for you to write, so you can carry that book. Apart from that, you will have to carry volume 1 right now. We will discuss volume 2 separately, so you don't need to carry volume 2 later on. Right now, you can carry it later on. Apart from that, yeah, I will also be sharing you handouts for the question and answers we'll be solving right now. I have prepared a set of questions right now, which I think is important for your class perspective, because ICA has still not released their study materials. And so the questions will get updated in the future day. When the questions get updated from ICA, I will personally give you another book. Okay, I'll be giving you a printout of a solutions guide also, where you will be having all question and answers. For class purposes, that will not be given because I don't want you to be looking at solutions. We will be doing the solutions in the class. So as the chapter gets over, I will give you the respective handouts for those questions alone, and we'll be solving it in the class along with the book which you have. Yes, for those who are attending the physical classes, you will be given an extra register which is fairly the same size as what an ICA answer sheet will look like. Yes, idea being very simple. We want you to practice how it looks like in an ICI paper, so that you understand how much of the format to use and what are the space to use. If you make a mistake there, then you end up losing marks. Yes, so we'll follow the same format. I will teach you how to write all those things also as a part of the class curriculum. Yes or no? Yes, sweet. Now, as I move forward to these topics, let me also clarify my target on how these classes are going to go. Since we are starting on September 10th, we are envisaging that by the Saturday of this week, we should be able to complete the basics and the rates of taxes. Yes, which means Sunday will be your good class where we'll be discussing about all those things on how to file returns. Yes, so Sunday's class is a little more crucial class, because that day is when we will be taking out one of the financial statements of a company, and then we'll be reviewing the whole financials in order to prepare a computation statement and to see how you look at it from a tax audit perspective and all the other things. Yes, we will take it from there on Sunday, so that after Sunday when we start PGBP, you will now be able to link all your topics when you go forward. Yes, this is also a reason because you are going to start your tax audit season right now, and I'm assuming it is not started yet. It's going to start later, because that's how every auditor works, you know. Start in the last week and then start begging everyone, saying we need an extension and all those things. So you'll probably start a week after that only. That's why this Sunday should be a good opportunity. Yes, so if everything goes well, we should be able to do that on a Sunday, and then from there we'll take it forward and we'll try to understand the integrities of every section, so that we complete the whole topics as we progress. Yes, by the end of this month, you should be in a position to be able to complete everything relating to your computational model. Yes, so which means we'll be doing PGBP, capital gains, IFOS, clubbing, whatever nonsense you learned about in your inter, plus a little bit more from a final perspective as well. Yes, all those things will be done by the end of this month. After which, in the month of October, we will start focusing on your international taxation concepts, meaning relating to transfer pricing, DTAAs, and non-resident taxation, BEPS and all. I'm not teaching you. Yes, those things and all will be discussed on a later stage. We will do all those things in November. Yes, so that November season will be all about talking about your miscellaneous topics, your BEPS, your MLIs, your other small theoretical topics which are there for you. Keeping that in mind, we should be able to complete positively by November is what the whole target practice is. Yes, in all that practical sense, it's also clarified that you will not be having a very tight schedule. We will be doing it according to your office premises as well. So what will happen is, on a daily basis, you will have classes between 6:30 to 9. Saturdays will also be 6:30 to 9, unless and until everyone confirms to me that you have an holiday. In that case, we'll have an extended class. Sunday is an extended class. So Sunday we will not start at 6:30, we'll start a little later. Let's say 7:30 we'll start, and then we'll go until 1, 2, something like that. Yes, so we'll do an extended class on Sunday so that we can do better. Yes, this is what the whole premise is as of now. As we keep completing topics and as we complete a bigger amount of chunk, I will itself come and tell you that it's become heavy right now. Let's take a break. Yes, in that point of time, we will take probably a week's time of break so that you can go back to your office, complete your filing season and everything, and come back so that you're smarter and stronger. Yes, we will not be trying to keep any strategic classes or any disputed classes during your filing season. When you're already sleepy, it is not worthful anyway. Yes, so we will not try to do that. At the same time, in October, I am also traveling overseas and everything. So yeah, konjo break and all here will be there. Yes, so that is what the whole premise is. At the end of the day, we should be able to complete our batch by 20th of November is what the target is. Yes, but I'm not putting a clear deadline on it. I'm telling you very cautiously right now itself. Since the batch is predominantly filled with November, I have the luxury to take a little bit more also. Yes, so what I'll be doing is we'll be trying to target it by November 20, but in case we want to do all these group sessions, MCQ tests, all those fun activities and all those things, sometimes we'll go outside, play, go to the beach and all those things. When we do all those things, you can eventually imagine it will go a little more than that. Yes, so there will be a little bit of an extension, not more than December, I'm very sure. Yes, by New Year, you should know direct tax is what my target is. So December ka mala pogadu, but December also, yeah, obviously, I will not keep it till December 25 also. Target is November, but let's be hopeful about it also. Yes, idea is to not rush the classes in order to complete the syllabus so that you don't understand anything. Idea is to make sure that you understand everything also so that you can appreciate what is going on, whether from a practical standpoint or from a exam perspective. Clear enough? Yes, great. Now, I'm already clarified it in the orientation, but I'm just taking a minute again. What materials do you have for your classes? You will be given 2 modules of your concept guides, which you have in your hand right now. This will be a yellow, orange color book for this attempt. You will be seeing all your provisions relating to your exams in this books. Yes, so it is also devised in such a way that it is formatted in the way we'll take classes also. Yes, so it is not given in the same sequence as what ICA has given, random sequence where you don't know what even you're talking about. Yes, this is planned in such a way that when you talk a story, you should be able to imagine the same story. So the chapters are also designed in such a way you can go through the book and you will understand it better. It's a complete color coded material with all reasons on why the colors have been used, all given in your summary preface. Yes, you can go through the preface and you'll understand that better. Nevertheless, we'll be doing it in the class and you'll get it there. Your highlighter and everything is important for your classes because you will need it for you to mark all those things. I already requested you in the past also, carry a light color highlighter. The problem with the book which I'm noticing right now is that the back impression is already coming on the front, right? So the more you use highlighter, the more backside will get hidden. Don't do that. Yes, so keep a very light highlighter so that you can highlight what is important for you, but at the same time don't end up smudging what is there on the backside because then it causes problems for both of us. At the same time, I've also clarified to you that you need to carry sticky notes from tomorrow's class. Do not overwrite in the book because there is already no space. It is already overlapping on the backside, so if you try to do anything funny, it will end up making your book a mess and then you'll have to come back and get a new edition from me. It will cost you. Yes, so let's not do that as well. Yes, please carry a sticky note so that you can put it then and there and you can use it from there. And I will need sticky notes, people, because every time I start a chapter, I will itself come and tell you what is the important things in the chapter from an exam perspective. Yes, so I will give you that weightage also in the sense that when you read this chapter from an exam perspective, look at these topics predominantly and then you can look at the miscellaneous topics so that you know what you have to read for your exams and how you want to clear your exams. Again, all the research is done based on your past exam papers and all. So I will prove it to you from the question bank which we already have also. Yes, this is your concept guides which will help you for your exam preparation from a provision perspective. We will use this as a reference material for you to understand the subject, but in the practical sense, when we talk in the class, it will be all from the act itself. Yes, so as we talk, we'll talk from that because we need to know the technicals of it. That will not be part of your concept guides because obviously you don't need it from an exam perspective. So we will do both mix and match. Yes, second book which will be given is a solutions guide. I was earlier planning to give it as a PDF copy because I was not trusting you people, but luckily ICA has not released the question bank, so I have the liberty to give it to a later stage. Yes, so what we'll be doing is that I will be giving you handouts of each chapter which will have the questions. We will solve those questions in the classes, and then once ICA releases the study material, I will update my questions. It's already the same only, but ICA will normally bring in 1 or 2 extra questions and all those things. I will update those extra questions and I'll share it across with you. This solutions guide will not just have ICI study material questions, people. I have also done a compilation of all, let's say 20-25 years worth of question papers. Yes, I've taken it right from the practice manual of 2016, covering every attempts after that. Yes, so all questions have been covered in the sense that if I find that question to be new or intriguing, or maybe it's wrong from ICS perspective, then I would have answered those questions so that you know that tomorrow if a same question comes, even if it is a wrong question, you know how to answer it right now. Yes, I would have not repeated questions, people. I'll be very careful about it. Yes, if it's like I have seen the same question in Jan 2016 and Jan 2019, I will not put 2 questions and give you a book which is 5,000 pages and come and say read everything and go. There's no point of it. Yes, I will give you only one question which will come and refer that this is the same question there in both the attempts. You read one, it makes sense. Yes, so my question bank will not have any repeated questions. I'll be very careful about that. Yes, do not come and tell me, Rahul, I want more practice questions and all. If you want more practice questions, solve the same question twice. Yes, don't come and ask me, Rahul, give me the same question 10 times and then do it 10 times. Yes, you're training yourself or educating yourself. What is the difference? What are you doing? You're training yourself or educating yourself? You're educating yourself. You're not training yourself. Yes, I don't want you to mug up questions and go for exam and then come and say, Rahul, this question same to same came. I wrote the same number and came. You don't even realize I say change the numbers already. Yes, so don't make those mistakes. Not for my subject, at least to start with. Also for the fact that amendments are and all there. Yes, so one small mistake, you go and you take someone old's material and then come and copy paste the same answer in exam. I say, I will come and tell, okay, boss, cost of indexation changed, which means the answer is wrong. And then you come and crib about it saying Rahul taught you wrong things. Yes, don't do all those things also. Yes, last request from my side, do not end up relying on any other materials. Yes, don't come in with that premise that I will go to another Sitaraman or something, buy a big book. That book will have some 6,000, 7,000 pages. Let me practice all the questions and all. You can do it for other subjects, people. Unfortunately, not for my subject. Yes, because one small mistake which happens is that when you are given a responsibility to a faculty to prepare a 6,000 pages material, mistakes are bound to happen. Yes or no? Because let's be real about it. No faculty sits and prepares a 6,000 material unless and until it's Rahul. And I don't prepare 6,000 material. Yes, I prepared it an 800 pages solutions guide, which itself is a big number for me. Yes, updating in 800 pages itself is a pain. You and I both understand that, because amendments is painful for you also, it's painful for me also. Imagine a faculty getting a 6,000 pages update. He definitely is not working on it. Who's working on it? You people only. Yes, your principal, your manager will come and say, boss, update the book and give it to me so that I can publish it off. Yes, now when you are already frustrated, you will take the frustration out on the book only. Yes, so don't play all those things, people. Taking a book outside from someone else, copying it, then sending me a photo saying, Rahul, you are not matching this answer. Maybe you are teaching me wrong and everything. Yeah, then you know what kind of answers will come out of me. Yes, so don't do all those things also. Trust my material, that is enough. If you want extra questions, tell me. I will keep surprise test. Okay, that I am good enough. Yes, the day you come and tell me I want more practice questions, next day you will have surprise test. That I will see whether you want practice questions or not. Yes, so you prepare from that material, that is enough for me right now. Clear enough? Yes. Third thing which will be given is something called as an MCQ guide. Again, MCQ guide is under preparation right now because ICI is yet to update their MCQs. They have only kept the MCQs till 2024 attempt. Once 2025 attempt MCQ comes in, that time we will do the MCQs as well. I will give you the MCQs which ICI gives. But in the classes, we'll be doing some other MCQs which I will personally prepare. Yes. So I will prepare MCQs. We'll do a real-time testing. So in the sense that we will play the MCQs here and you will play it along with me and we'll see who gets the higher mark, you or me. Yes, it's you versus me battle here. Yes, let's see if your articleship has taught you better or my experience has taught me better. Which one is better? Let's see that. Yes, so we'll be doing those games and all in MCQ guide also. After which, once the batch gets over, once I say updates their MCQs, I will publish the MCQ guide and I'll share it across as a PDF copy so that you can refer from that also. Yes, these are the 3 books which will be given from my side. One extra book which I've given from my side is a register which you can use for your exam preparation, writings and all those things. Yes, these are the materials you're going to have with yourself, people. Carry these along for your classes and everything. It will be helpful for you. Is that clear? Yes, great. This is what we are going to have as a premise. Now, what else do you want to know? Anything about my personal life, whom I'm married to and everything? No? Okay, I'm not married. Yeah. You want to come for food only, not for my girl, right? Yes. Anyway, not married, single guy. Just saying. Yes. Anyway, great. So let's start on that premise, people. What we'll do is for today's class, let's keep it light. Yes, let's not get into technicals because I think if you don't know the basics, you don't know anything. Yes, so we're going to keep this class a little bit basic. We're going to see if you understand your inter first. Let's see if you're really qualified enough to be calling yourself as a final student or not. Let's start from the basics and we'll go from there. Just a word of disclaimer. My students who are from my past will not open their mouth today. Yes, they kind of know all the answers. So I'm not going to start from there. It's only for those others who are there from my other things. We're going to start on the basics and first try to scratch what the subject is about. Yes, let's help me with the first topic of the subject. What is the subject called as, people? You're going to call it as direct. It's called direct tax what? Laws or act? It's called direct tax laws. There is nothing called direct tax act. So it's called direct tax laws and international taxation. This is what the paper is. Your paper number 4, I'm assuming. Yeah, okay. So this is your first paper of the group number 2. Yes, somehow it has become difficult right now. Earlier it was paper number 5, so it's like you would already be very disheartened by SCMP, and so then you will come back to direct tax and you'll be like, okay, let's somehow let's pass it off. Now that this has become your paper number 1 of group number 2, this will become your disheartening paper for you to go for your indirect taxes, and then you have this weird paper called as multidisciplinary case study. I don't know what nonsense it is. Yes, now also they are coming and telling you people that you have to carry a suitcase for your exams and go. People are literally carrying suitcases for exam as if they're going to live there. Yes, but somehow it is there like that, so it's going to be fun for you also. Let's see how it goes. I don't know how it is going to happen. Right now, I think only one attempt of May 25 has happened, and they told me that the paper was easy. Obviously, because it's the first one. Yes, as you progress, you will see 2 more attempts before your exams, and then the fun will start. Then you will know how ICA is playing with multidisciplinary case study. Yes, so those kind of funs and all you will have, but nevertheless, that's not my agenda, that's not my premise also. By the way, I will also be doing MCS with you. Yes, meaning MCS, sort of certain case studies are being released. In that case studies, to the extent it is pertaining to direct taxes, I will support you on that as well. Yes, just keep me reminded once the batch gets over, because I may forget it off. As of now, I don't think they have released the case studies for that attempt, so I'm not taking it up right now. Once they release that, I will do that also for you. Yes, just remind me on that. Anyway, we are looking at the subject called as direct tax laws and international taxation. For Jitu's room. Yes, we are looking at the subject called as direct tax laws and international taxation. Now, you fairly understand what is international taxation. We're talking about all kinds of taxes which are going to be outside India or with India, pertaining to outside India. It is international taxation with India pertaining to outside India. Understand, I am not bothered about coming and telling you what is Singapore laws or what is Mandarin laws. I am more interested about telling you what happens if an Indian guy interacts with a foreign entity, or a foreign entity comes down to India and works with India. Yes, so which means we'll be looking at global concepts here, but only from a perspective of Indian regime. Yes, that is what the whole premise is. Apart from that, the syllabus also has a bit of a theory chapters where they'll explain you what happens on a global scale also. While it is not relevant for India, they want you to know. In case you decide to now move out of Indian regime and go to another thing, that is what will also be there. Purely theoretical, boring topics, we'll try to make interesting, but right now it is all boring. Yes, which comes to the first part of it, which is called as direct tax laws. Yes, now when it comes to direct tax laws, in inter you would have learned it as income tax laws. Yes, and it has changed by calling it as direct tax laws, because in finals you have a little more extra laws, like Black Money Act. Next, PMLA is not a part of syllabus. PMLA is not direct tax. PMLA is about doing illegal work. It's not relating to taxes. Next, one more. We have equalization levy. These are all the items which are there as a part of a direct tax laws. Yes or no? Yes. Let's break words and let's understand from the back. The first thing is called as laws. Simple English, people. Broken simple English. I don't want no Shakespeare here. What do you mean by law? Rule. Okay. I'll give you a small question. Yes, today when I was coming to the class, I was a little looking like a beggar till yesterday. So I decided in the morning that I'll shave myself and I'll cut my hair, and I'm obviously not cutting my hair, cutting my nails and everything. Yes, early morning 5 o'clock I get up, I start cutting my nails, I start cutting my beard. Yes, the first thing which happens is my dad gets up at 5:15, he sees there is a trimmer noise coming in and he starts shouting at me. I'm like, what the hell, what is wrong? He's like, Rahul, today is Tuesday, you're not supposed to cut your nails, you're not supposed to cut your beard and everything. I'm like, I have a class, do you want me to look like a beggar there? He's like, I don't care, Rahul, but this is what the ritual is. You're not supposed to do it because then the gods will feel bad about it, it seems. I'm like, which god is sitting and waiting jobless in 5:30 in the morning asking me for my beard, hair and all those things? Point is, this is what my dad comes and says. At 5:30 in the morning, you're not supposed to cut your hair. Question, law, not a law? Not a law, because it's a belief. Okay. Same logic? Yes. Okay. Question number 2. I'm coming and saying that my parents are coming and telling my sister that when you go outside of the house, you're not supposed to wear full clothes. I'm from an orthodox family, people. Let's be honest about it also. Yes. And if you're a Jain, you understand that. I'm not a Jain, by the way, but just clarify. Yes. The point is, when you're from an orthodox family, the family will come and say girls should not wear sleeveless dresses, should not have revealing dresses and everything, and go outside. Question, law, not a law? Not a law. Okay. You move from here, India, and you go to this Abu Dhabi, UAE and all those places where they're coming and saying if you're a girl, you should wear this full black color burqa and everything and travel. If you don't, then you're not supposed to go outside. Law, not a law? Law, because governed by it? Okay. So If you wear revealing clothes in India, it's not a law, but if you wear revealing clothes in UAE, then it's a law. Is something wrong? Shall I rephrase my question? I'll rephrase my question and then you answer the same thing. I'm asking you whether it's a law. I'm not asking you whether it's a legal law. I'm rephrasing my question. My question is whether it's a law. I'm not asking whether it's a legal law. Now I'm going to repeat my questions. I cut my nails in the morning. My dad asked me not to cut my nails because it is a bad omen. Law, not a law. Law, not a law. Law, not a law. Not a law. Law, not a law, because it's not written somewhere. Okay. Tomorrow on the stage, Modi Sarkar comes and states, Bhai or Behno, we have this ritual in Ahmedabad that if you cut your nails on Tuesdays, then we will sue you. Hypothetical. Modi can do anything in life. Yes. So Modi came and said, if you cut your nails, we'll sue you. So tomorrow, Tuesday, you cut your nails. They put you in jail. Law, not a law. I bring the same question again. You're telling me it's a law because it is passed by an act, which means you're trying to tell me it's a law because it is legal. Think about it. My question is very simple. Is it a law or not a law? I'm not asking whether it's legal or not. I can discuss about that later. My question is first, is it a law? Convinced? 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 The point I'm trying to make people is that when you talk about some rules, it does not have to be a legal binding rule. It does not have to be a legal binding rule. As long as it is a rule, it is a law. Are you clear? Are you clear? It is as good as me coming and telling that tomorrow when an income tax department officer comes to your home and comes you and shows you the card and comes and says, I'm going to put a raid on your house. I'm going to put a raid on your house. You may come and dispute with him whether he is rightfully authorized or not rightfully authorized. But that does not change the fact that he can come to your house and ask for it. Correct? Not correct. That's because it is a law. You just don't know whether it's constitutional or unconstitutional. Correct? Not correct. Correct? Not correct. Yes. Understand that first premise, people, that when someone talks to you about something, it is always a law. It is like if Rahul comes and tells you that tomorrow you come at 6:30 to the class and I permit you inside or else I'll throw you out. It is as good as a law. Because this is Profex ka law or this is taxation ka law. To maan ke chalo, nahi maan ke chalo, it's your headache. Yes. But at the end of the day, it is told to you and you are supposed to follow. Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes, you understand that much? You understand that much? Great. This is the first word, which is a law. Law is nothing but a rules and a regulations. It does not have to be passed. It just has to be a rule. It just has to be a rule. If it is passed, it is legal. If it is not passed, it is customs. And when I say customs, I'm not meaning that customs, I'm meaning you and my understandings. Yes. So my point is, when it comes to a law, please understand everything is law. Everything is law. Everything which you and I discuss and we come and tell that we'll do it together is a law. Yes. The only point is it may be enforceable, it may not be enforceable. That's a discussion to happen at another stage. Yes or no? Clear till here? Yes. Let's come back. Next word is tax. What is a tax? Government's revenue. Okay. Anything else? So the money which you pay on railway ticket is a tax. But it's not so it's government revenue but not tax, or it's tax but not government. I am confused. Okay, so you're giving me examples and I asked what is tax. Quick. What do you think is a tax? Subscriptions. Oh, you're buying SIM card. So you bought a SIM card and you told the government, sir, ये मेरा SIM card है, अब you have to give me services. Come and make tea at my home. Acha, okay. I'll ask you a question. Tell me whether it's a tax or not. You all would have watched this movie in Hindi called as Rowdy Rathor, and in Tamil called as Sirthai. You would have called this movie called Sirthai. Yes, there is this movie where what happens is the actor of the movie will come out of a train, and then he will come out on the station. There'll be some gunda standing on the station and will come and say, sir, since you have, sir na solo matanga, but they will come and they'll say, you are coming to our location and therefore you have to give us protection money. You have to give us protection money. The guy is saying, what are you protecting me from? He said, myself. Correct. So this guy will end up giving some money. After that, he'll beat and take it back also, but he'll give some money. At the same time, you'll see one tea kade guy will come running and he'll give some money, and that guy will come and say, what is this? This is very less. And he'll say, sir, this month this much only happened, so therefore this is what I can give you. This is what I can give you. Look at the tea kade guy. He made 100 and gave 30 to the gunda. Tax, not a tax. 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 Where is government here? उस इलाके का मैं ही government अभी. Is it a tax or not a tax? It's a tax. It is not a legal tax. Now you understand what I'm talking about. Yes, understand people, tax is nothing but a charge on anything. You can call it on your income, it can be an expense, it can be on consumption, it can be on goods. It does not matter. It's a charge which is levied on you. Question is whether it's legal or not is a different conversation. Point is it a tax? Yes, that is what the whole premise is. Are you clear? Yes. That brings me to the next question then, Rahul. How do you decide whether a tax is legal or illegal? How do you decide whether a tax is legal or illegal? Tomorrow if Rahul wears a coat and a tie and comes to your home and comes and says, Mirko, I am a CA, first attempt qualified, I know everything about direct taxes. So therefore, aaj ke baad se whatever income you want, give me 30%. Because I know the subject. Legal, illegal? Illegal. If I wear a coat and a tie, still illegal. Still illegal. Okay. There is another person who comes to you. He wears a vesti and one broken button shirt. Comes to you, shows you a card. The card comes and says he is from income tax department. Yes. And you look at him up and down and you are asking him whether you are really from income tax. He's like, sir, that is what they're giving me salary, so this is what I can afford. Yes. He comes to your home and he comes and tells you, you are having a raid. Therefore, whatever money you have, everything is mine. Everything is mine. Legal, illegal? Huh? Legal. Why illegal? You are like income tax department. कौन होता है तू मेरे को पूछने वाला? इस इलाके के हम ही बाप है. Legal, illegal? Quickly, legal, illegal? Legal, legal. He has a badge, authorized to do it. Legal. Apo, is there clothes deciding whether it's legal or illegal? What is deciding? Designation. Mine is a CA. I'm more qualified. He is not. He is some BCom useless idiot. My designation is higher, technically. Why did you give him money? What is wrong with me? He is by. I am only government. Government is of the people, for the people, by the people. Hey, none of the government. Am I not the government? Are you the government? Can you call Modi to come to your home and make tea for you? Try it. You don't know. Maybe someday he'll come, who knows? Yes, he will also want a photo for Instagram, right? Point is, how did you decide whether he's legal and I'm not illegal? Binded by legal law, act. What if I come and tell you income tax is illegal? Did you ever ask the question whether income tax is legal? You know, research on it. It's constitutional. Okay. On the level. The question is very simple, people. My point is, today if Modi Sarkar comes on the stage and comes and says, dear Bhai or Beno, I am not having money in India. So therefore, from tomorrow, if you start breathing, I will collect 10 rupees extra from you. I'll collect 10 rupees extra from you. Question, can he collect, not collect? He can collect. Not, हाँ या ना? हाँ, because Modi बोल दिया. बाप के घर से आ गया, मतलब बाप ही है. हाँ. Can Modi collect? No. How did you decide? जान का खतरा इसलिए no. What is the basis, people? How did you decide something? See, point is very simple. I always ask this question to my dad. You know, suddenly one day what will happen is we'll be sitting at the home and someone will come and say, going forward, when you ride a motorcycle, you have to wear a helmet. I'm like, I did not hear it somewhere. But they're like, no, if you don't wear, they'll put a fine on you. I'm like, okay. So then I start wearing a helmet. Suddenly 2 months later, they'll come and say, Rahul, the person who's sitting back on you also has to wear a helmet. I'm like, ye kab nikla? Did they inform you? Did they inform you? Appo, how did you decide that it's legal? Did you ever try to go and question the police officer saying, "Kaun hota hai tu mere se puchne wala?" I mean, you're the CA, right? You're going to become a CA, which means you have the authority to ask things. And if you go and tell him that you're a CA, he'll ask you more money, by the way. Right? My question is very simple, people. Are you following anything just because Modi Sarkar comes on the stage and comes and says this is what is to be done? Or just because Nirmala ma'am comes and says this is what you have to pay me? Or are you asking the right question whether it's valid or not valid? Should be. How do you decide whether something is valid? Who comes and tells you it's valid? Because Nirmala, if you go and tell Nirmala ma'am only will come and tell me it's valid, then Nirmala ma'am will say whatever she wants. Which means you cannot rely on Nirmala ma'am also. You have to rely on law. To know whether a law is legal or not also requires the law. Correct? No. Correct. To know whether a law is legal or not also requires a law. Which means there should be a law ka law, which is called as our mother law. And in India, there is only one mother law, which means a simple question you have to ask yourself, Rahul, whether something is valid or not will be decided in your. Now let me answer your question. Do you want to know whether income tax is legal or illegal? It is provided in Constitution that it is legal. Yes. So which means Constitution has come and clarified that whenever a tax has to be collected, it will only be collected by a authority of law. It will only be collected by an authority of law. And so because the Constitution has come and confirmed it, you are all mandated to give it. That brings me to the next question. Tomorrow Modi Sarkar comes and says, if you breathe, you have to pay money. Valid or not valid? That is what you should know. Is it brought in the Constitution? No. How do you know? Sorry? Very good. When you go through the Constitution, you have been learned in civics something called as right to safety and right to live. Yes or no? So tomorrow if Modi Sarkar comes and says breathing ke upar tax, he is indirectly coming and saying don't breathe. That is when you can go and shout and say, Modi, you are not authorized because you are violating my right to live. And therefore this is unconstitutional. CS people you are. This is unconstitutional. Correct? Not correct. Correct? Not correct. This brings into the same question. Rahul, helmet penna hai nahi penna. Where does it come from? It comes from a Motor Vehicles Act. And Motor Vehicles Act is authorized under Constitution because it is for the safety of the public. Correct? Correct? Yes. The point I'm trying to make people is that going forward as a qualified CA, don't come and take things just because it is there. Ask the question whether it is valid or invalid. Yes or no? Yes. Now you may come and ask me, Rahul, do I really have the authority? I'll tell you, you have. I'll give you a simple example. I'm not sure how many of you are aware about it. There is this very famous concept called as ICDS. Full form? Income Computation and Disclosure Standards. Now for those who understand this carefully, Income Computation and Disclosure Standards were released in 2017. And in 2017, they launched it and they came and said, ICDS is now going to be implemented. We are going to copy paste accounting standards and give you a better version for income taxes. So now they came and brought standards and they came and said, this is the standards for ICDS. You have to follow. Now the stupidity what they did is they brought this ICDS as a part of rules. They brought it as a part of, in the rules they came and said, going forward when you do a construction contract, whatever is the extra money which you get, the initial money which you get, no, that money will have to be offered to tax right away. You'll have to offer it to tax right away. I will not give you technical words and all right now, we'll do it in the class. Yes, they also came and said, Rahul, when you get government grants, even if the condition is not satisfied, the moment you get the grants, you have to offer it to tax. Now you asked a simple question. You said, Rahul, income tax told, therefore do. And you went and offered taxes. There was one smart CA sitting in India and he came and said, who the hell are you to come and ask? Because understand, government grants were only to be offered to taxes when it was legally sure that you will honor the contract. That is what accounting standards came and told you. Correct? Not correct? Income tax is asking you to do a different treatment by way of rules which is not even therein. Valid? Not valid? Valid? Not valid? Not valid because Act is superior, rules is superior. When Act itself is not there, how can rules come and ask you for extra things? Correct? Not correct? Yes. 2017 they went and they filed a writ petition They went to High Court and they came and said, dude, what the hell is wrong with you? How can you come and ask me to pay more taxes in the rules? Rules are only telling you how to do. They are not telling you what to do. What happened? 2018 High Court came and passed a judgment saying all ICDS is unconstitutional. They passed a judgment. They said, yes, you are right. There is unconstitutional rights given to you. They are abusing their powers. And therefore, none of the ICDS is valid. None of the ICDS is valid. Ask yourself a question. You won the case. Despite government coming and telling pay taxes. Big deal, small deal. Big deal. Government happy, not happy. What will government do? 2019 amendment came in. That was the attempt I was writing exams for. Yes, they brought in an amendment to the act where they came and said, ICDS, whatever we told is all valid. Because now we are bringing it into the, by retrospective change from, because obviously tax support chair. Correct, not correct. If you bring it from 2019, they'll come and say, okay, 2 years tax save. No, it's still achievement for me. And they said, no, back from 2017, I want taxes again. Point what I'm trying to make people is that you have the rights to ask and you have the rights to correct it. Why do you think Income Tax Act is so complicated right now? Is it because government is realizing mistakes or you're telling government that you're making a mistake? When you tell only, it will make no. If you go and stand on the face and you come and say, government बोल दिया मतलब सब सही है, तब तो हो गया फिर तुम्हारा काम. Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes. Point I'm trying to make people is that income tax is a very interesting subject, at least to the extent that whenever a law comes in, you always have the right to ask whether it's a valid law or an invalid law. Yes, and that gives you the powers to do things. And I'm serious about it. I'll give you a simple example. This year, there is this big thing coming up called as block assessment for raid search, whatever you call it. Yes or no? Now, if you understand this background, this came in actually from 1980s. There was a time in 1980s when this was there. And then it was removed. And then they brought in 158A. And then they removed that and again brought 148. And then they again removed that and now they brought this back. So it's like we started from old and then we came back to the old. We came back to the old. Now the whole problem with the raid, if you understand from movies and everything, they'll come to your house, they will break open the door, they will break open locks, they'll come and say, don't call anyone, don't do this, don't do that. Technically, they're violating your constitutional rights. Ask yourself. Yes or no? Technically, they're not letting you live anywhere. They're not letting you speak anything. They're not letting you do anything. It's all invalid constitutional rights. Agreed, not agreed. You have the authority to come and ask. Correct? But then you have to come and ask whether you have the authority to come and ask. Yes or no? Yes. Here is where the whole point comes in. When the constitution was devised, they came and said, yes, you have the right to safety. But only to the extent you are a genuine person. When there is a reasonable doubt given on you, then there is no right to safety. Because if tomorrow you come and say everyone has a right to safety, court will not be able to hang someone to death. Because the moment you pass an order saying I want to hang to death, that prisoner will come and say, sir, why sir? Right to safety for me. Agreed, not agreed. Same logic, people. When you have a person stuck in a raid, he cannot have the authority to invoke a right to safety because he is reasonably under a doubt. Yes or no? Yes or no? But that does not change the fact that you will accept it. It gives you an authorization to come and ask the right to question before you make your decisions. Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes or no? And this is extremely crucial for you and me, people. Because please understand, whenever a fraud happens in any company, the first person who's put in jail is CA only. They will not take the owner and go. They'll first come and say, he doesn't know anything. Yes or no? Yes or no? Which means you have to first save your ass. And if you want to save your ass, you cannot come and say, sir, mera kya dosh? At that point of time, you will only have to come and say, sir, I know legally I am not supposed to be present. Because this is what the act comes and says, this is what I followed. Correct, not correct? Yes. Please understand, people, you and me being both honest to each other. Taxes is not a subject we are learning because we want to pay the right taxes. Be honest, that's true. No one has a doubt about it. Yes, none of us are doing, and including if you are in a specialized taxation department in your articleship right now, your firm itself will come and tell you the same thing. Yes, you are not there to save taxes. You're not there to pay taxes. You're there to save taxes. And if you know that if you're going to play all those nonsense, you are going to end up in jail. Possibilities are high, which means now you have to prepare yourself in such a way that you don't go to jail. Yes or no? Yes or no? See, understand, people, there is a difference between illegal and there is a difference between not legal. Think about it carefully. There is a difference between illegal and there is a difference between not legal. What is the difference, people? Okay. This is what we call in very fancy terms as loopholes. Illegal is where they're coming and saying don't do. Not legal is where they forgot to tell you don't do. And therefore you are doing. Yes or no? Yes. And what you do is nothing but called as loopholes. Now the thing about loopholes is it is wrong. But not told wrong. And therefore it is right. That is what you get paid for, people. Yes or no? Yes or no? No one is going to pay you for doing the right thing in the right way. They're only going to pay you for doing the wrong thing in the right way. Yes, what you do wrong but make sure that it is right is called not legal or loopholes. Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes. The point I'm trying to make, people, is that when you look at a subject like this, it's interesting to the extent that you can do wonders with it. Because you can always find a different answer to it. Yes, you can always read the line or you can read between the lines. Yes or no? Yes or no? There is this very famous story which I have in my life where I always learn this as a learning lesson for me. Yes. What happened is, back in the times when law was being created, the first law was created in UK. Yes. And in the UK law, what happened is, that time there was this electricity was just invented. Yes. So it was like a very good thing, because in the night and all, when people were traveling, accidents were happening. Right. So what happened is, UK law passed and they came and said anyone who rides a bicycle should have a bulb attached to it. Should have a bulb attached to it. What is the idea? What is the idea? You should be able to see the person in the front and you should avoid accidents. Correct, not correct? But ask yourself a simple question. Rahul, today only electricity is created. The price of electricity will be cheap or will be huge? If the price is going to be huge, people will pay, not pay. But if you don't pay, they will put you in jail. So which means you have to not pay but still not go to. Correct, no? Correct, no? Now I'm going to read the law once again for you. The law comes and says, if you have a bicycle, you should have a bulb attached to it. Is it a good law or a bad law? Why is it a bad law? Very good. Now here is where what happened is, they came and said you should have a cycle, you should have a bulb attached to it. I bought a cycle, I bought a bulb, I did not put electricity in it. Now the judge caught me and the judge came and said, Rahul, what is it? I'm putting you in jail. And I'm like, who the hell are you to put me in jail? What did I do wrong? You asked me for a cycle, I have a cycle. You asked me for a bulb, I also have a bulb. Then what the hell is wrong? Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes. That is when they came and said, okay, my mistake. They came and said you should have a cycle and there should be a bulb which glows. Which? Good law, bad law? Why bad law? How else will it glow? People started putting neon lights and they came and said it is glowing. Yes or no? Yes or no? They had to start making changes and they came and said, okay, there should be a cycle, have a bulb attached to it, should have electricity flowing from it. Legal, illegal. A bad law, good law. Bad law, good law. Bad law, good law. Still bad law. I have a cycle, I have a bulb, has electricity, but this fit on the back side. Light is coming on the back. People are seeing on the back. People are not seeing in the front. Am I wrong? Because I did everything right. But is the intention solved? No. That's because you read the lines or you read between the lines. You read between. Correct, not correct. Correct, not correct. Yes, that is the fun of the subject, people. Yes, it is not about you knowing what is there. It is about knowing what is not there. Yes, that is the kind of fun you are supposed to enjoy in the subject. Yes, that is the kind of fun I want to give at least. Yes, when we read the subject, I will be telling you first what is there and then also be trying to clarify what is not there. Let me see if you can answer it before I answer it. Yes, if you can find what is not there before I answer it, then let's see who is having the competition. Yes, because then you have the authority to go to your boss and come and say, see, I know what is not there. Do you know what is not there? Yes or no? And now you are making money for him, and then you can ask for share. He'll not give, but you can ask. Right? Right? Point is, let's enjoy it to that extent. Yes. If you want to enjoy it to that extent, you always have to start asking questions first. When you start asking questions is when you get the right answers, and when you get the right answers is when you know what you have not understood. Yes or no? Yes. Let's keep that premise in hand and let's start with the first topic. The first heading is called as direct. We learned what is law, we learned what is tax. What is direct? Okay, so there are two taxes, people. One is called as direct tax, one is called as difference. Basics of foundation. Indirect tax is like burden is shifted. One of the most useless things I've heard. Shift tax not allowed. Direct tax. Okay, next. Paid directly on. Okay. This is paid directly on income. This is. So directly on consumption or indirectly on consumption? Why is it indirect? How is it indirectly on income? No, one second. Direct tax is a tax which is levied directly on income. Indirect tax is a tax which is directly or indirectly? What do you mean by final or intermediate? Acha, CA inter or CA final? Acha, you're talking about the, okay. So indirect tax is a tax which is directly levied on consumption. But it is still called indirect tax. I don't. How? So how is it indirect on income then? Not really. So expense is only made only of income. Not? What if you're an NPO? You're a charitable organization, you don't want to make income, you're only making expenses. That's still not an income, it's a receipt. You gave me the definition, people, I didn't give you the definition. This is your foundation. You don't even know what you learned in foundation. Clarify, Indirect tax is a tax which is directly levied on expense, indirectly levied on income. Both are wrong, I don't know. So the ownership to pay taxes in direct taxes is with this person, and the ownership to pay taxes in that is with the other person. Okay. That is different, this is different. I'll tell you. Yes. Okay, I'm going to give you examples, people. You're going to tell me whether it is right or not. Yes. Just to understand how does an indirect tax work, indirect tax is coming and telling there is a supplier, there is a customer. So a supplier is going to supply products. Customer is going to pay money. What will you do in indirect taxes? Supplier will go to customer and come and say, instead of paying me 100, pay me 105. I will keep the 100 and I will give the 5 too. This is a tax of paid by, which means supplier is acting as a agent. Supplier is acting as a agent. Who is paying the tax? Who is paying the tax? Who is helping the tax? Supplier. Which means supplier is merely an agent. Now you told me, Rahul, indirect tax is a tax which is paid by supplier. That's what you told me. Okay. Supplier, customer supplies product, makes a payment. Income tax comes and says, before you make the payment, you have to do TDS. You have to do TDS. I will go and tell him 100 minus 5, 95 is what I will pay, 5 I will pay to government. This is tax of paid by. Correct now? Tax of paid by. What is the difference? Customer is acting as the agent for the tax of. Supplier is acting as the for the tax of. How the hell did you change that? The person changed, matter is the same only. How is this tax paid directly, indirect? I don't know, both are same only. Funny thing is, here also you have this stupid concept called as RCM, where they'll come and say, don't do this itself. I will itself pay my tax, I will itself claim credit, which means tax of mine paid by myself. Supplier order, tax is mine, paid himself. Rendu onu da. Where is the direct, indirect in this? I don't. Shifting burden. You can claim ITC later because you further supply. So which means you bought and you gave it to someone. That is how you shifted your burden. So which means you came and told it was my expense, but it is not my expense. That is how you shifted burden. Income tax. You are telling shift burden will not happen because if it is your income, if you migrate your income, if you have income, you will pay tax. If you don't have income, which means if you have income and you take this money and you expense it off, incur more expenses, meaning shift off your income to someone else, will you pay tax? I made 100 rupees from teaching you. I made 100 rupees from teaching you. Now, if I keep the 100 rupees with me, I will pay tax. I went to Jitu Bhaiya and came and told Jitu Bhaiya, if I have 100 rupees in my hand, I will have to pay tax. Let me do one thing, I will give 50% to you. 50% I will keep. Now, 50% tax, Rahul will pay. 50% tax, Jitu will pay. Burden shifted, not shifted. Why? Hey, I buy a product. If I eat the product, I will pay GST. If I give the product, he will pay GST. I made income. If I keep the income, I will pay tax. If I give the income, I will not pay tax. Rendu onnadana. Correct then. I don't know. You told me the definition. Tell me if I am wrong or I am convinced. I am convinced. You're still not convinced. Why are you not convinced? Is it because you have been learning it in foundation and you suddenly feel like it's wrong? That is what is happening. That is what is happening. You're suddenly coming and saying, Rahul, foundation in the pachin. Suddenly you're coming and telling it is wrong. How do I believe it? And that is the same question as ICDS. When the law came and told you, you came and said, yes, it is there in the law, therefore why should I question? Tell me honestly if I am wrong. What I said is right. But technically the wordings which you learned is wrong. This is what is happening. Apni pata TDS is also very small. So you're telling you should not keep the exceptionals to the rule. Point is, people, you may have learnt a few things which you think is right, but when you start asking, you will realize everything is wrong. Yes, if you honestly ask me, nothing of what you said is right. For me, there is only one difference between direct tax and indirect tax. If it is a tax levied on income, it is. If it is a tax levied on expense or consumption, it is. Katham, that's all. Yes, anything else which you learned is stupid. Naan straight solran. Anything else which you learned is stupid because I can always find exceptions to the rule. This is like chemistry. When you say you take H2SO4 and then you put it with chloride, it becomes ClH2SO4. Everything can have an exception. Yes or no? Yes or no? Income tax is the whole devised on the exception model only. Because when income tax was brought, they came and said pay 30%. And then suddenly they came and said, no, I also want surcharge. But then they came and said surcharge will not apply on capital gains. So I'm like, you first decide what you want. Yes or no? Yes or no? The basic itself is an exception only. So which means everything you learned itself is wrong. Because everything has an exception to the rule. Correct, not correct. Correct, not correct. Now I'll be very honest to you. Study material has what you said. I'm not denying it. It is there in the study material, but it is wrong. Because it is not right. Because it is not right. Now if you convince yourself and you say, yes, Rahul, I'm convinced, therefore it is wrong, good for you. If you say, no, I want to trust the study material and I want to go with that, it's your loss. Because then you're going to have the same mentality for your practical world also. I leave it to your choice. My point when it comes to direct tax and indirect tax, it is going to be tax on income, tax on full stop. You worked with that, that is enough for me. Clear enough? Clear enough? Then you brought something called progressive, regressive and all. Hey, understand, progressive, regressive is not a difference. It is an outcome. Yes or no? Yes or no? When you say progressive, you're saying higher the tax, higher the income. When you say regressive, it means lower the tax, lower the income, higher the tax. Sorry? Here is a question. When you're coming to indirect taxes, are you really comparing yourself with income? Then why do you bring in income? It is not. That is what I'm saying. Point is, when you're already in indirect taxes, you don't even have anything to do with income. Why do you compare your income itself? Doesn't make sense. Because then you're coming and saying whatever is your income, you'll pay the same tax. Makes no sense. You are not. So you're paying indirect taxes because you have an income, or you're paying indirect taxes because you have an expense? Not really. That's what I said, right? If you're in an NPO, you don't have income, but you still have expenses, so you'll still pay taxes. It's not exempt. We will learn it's not exempt. As a part of your syllabus, I will teach you NPO. That time you'll come and ask me the same question. I'll tell you it's not exempt. People, the point what I'm trying to make is when you're looking at indirect taxes, the whole premise of indirect tax works on expenses model. So you comparing it with an income itself is wrong. Yes or no? Yes. If you ask me the right definition of regressive, I will come and say the same thing. I will come and say regressive means nothing but higher the expense, higher the tax. Think about it and tell me. Yes. So which means if you ask me what is the outcome, I will come and say if the higher the income, higher the tax, it is progressive. Higher the expense, higher the tax, it is regressive. Full stop. That is what the best way to answer it is also. Yes. Because if you start comparing it with income, you are starting to compare apples with oranges, which has no relevance to it. Yes or no? Yes or no? You can only come and say that, Rahul, the more you incur as an expense, the more you pay as a tax, and that is good enough as a difference. But the only point is now not a difference, it is an outcome. Because the basic understanding of direct tax itself was it is a tax on income. So obviously the higher the income, the higher the tax. And the basic premise of indirect tax was higher the, expense. So therefore higher the expense, higher the tax. Yes, which means I cannot come and tell you that progressive and regressive is a difference. I can only come and tell you progressive and regressive is a, now you understand the difference. Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes. So if someone comes and really asks you from a practical world, Rahul, what is the difference between direct tax and indirect tax? The answer is very simple. If it is a tax on income, it is direct. If it is a tax on expense, it is indirect. That's all is the understanding. Nothing else beyond that. That's what I would come and clarify to you. Is that clear? Is that clear? Yes. Now this is what your basic premise is when it comes to your three words: direct, tax, and good enough. Done with the basics. Can we now come to inter? You finished foundation. Let's come to inter. Yes, let's now move to inter and let's now starting to understand what do you mean by this subject called as direct tax laws. Yes, now when you were in inter, you learnt about this one subject very specifically called as income tax laws. Yes, and which is where I came and told you that, Rahul, when you speak about income tax laws, the first question you need to ask yourself is whether it is constitutionally valid. It is constitutionally valid. Now I have already clarified it in my book also, but let me just give it once again. If you look at your income tax, it has been constitutionally made valid from your, the wiring is little off. Yeah. Say, Padi Kudra, lose it. Oh. Article number 200. 265. Read the lines with me. It says article number 265 of the Constitution provides that no tax shall be levied or collected except by an authority of law. So they clarified it to you that if it is supposed to be collected as a tax, then only one person who can do it is an authority of law. No one else can do it from you. No one else can do it from you. Now, if you notice this very carefully, it does not say direct tax or indirect tax. It just says taxes. It just says taxes, which means tomorrow, if Modi comes and says, for whatever gift you give, for whatever wealth you have, for whatever property you have, you now have to start paying taxes. Can Modi do it? Can Modi do it? Yes, because it does not say whether it is direct or indirect. It says any taxes can be levied. Tomorrow, if Modi comes and says, I want to abolish right to safety, he goes and he amends constitution. He removes right to safety. And then he comes and says, I want to levy breathing tax. Can he levy? Can he levy? Yes, because constitution is changed, right to safety is non-existent, and 265 comes into power and comes and says tax can be levied. Tax can be levied. Yes or no? Yes. I'll give you a simple example, people. There is a country called Italy. There is a country called Italy, and Italy has a very weird tax. The tax name is called as shadow tax. The tax name is called as shadow tax. Now, you and I will come and understand what exactly is shadow tax. The law comes and says that if a person stands near a monumental figure, any important monumental figure of Italy, if you stand near a monumental figure in the day sunlight, and if your shadow is casted on the monumental figure, you will now be caught by the police and you will be having to pay something called as shadow tax. It looks stupid. Yes or no? Yes. But the whole idea about bringing it is that they wanted to tell two things. First of all, you are not supposed to crowd my monument because it takes away the liberty. We are a culturized society. If you start making it as a bundled group and all, then you'll start making riots and everything. Second, if you start casting your shadows, photos will not come out well. And if the photo is not coming out well, it will not be displayed properly. So tourists may feel bad. Tourists may feel bad. It sounds stupid, but it is there. Now here is where the question, now shadow tax no tax can we levy? Yes, it sounds illogical, but it doesn't matter because, I mean, obviously not Indian constitution, the Italy constitution would permit it to do it. Yes, same logic. Tomorrow if Modi Sarkar comes and says, I want to collect something called shadow tax, allowed? Definitely allowed, because the powers are with you. Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes. Now here is where the next question comes. Rahul, because the article comes and says article number 265 provides that no tax shall be levied or collected. Question is, Rahul, I'm seeing two words. One is called levied, one is called collected. I'll ask you a simple question. Read the lines once again. If I ignore one of the two words, I say no taxes shall be levied except by an authority of law. Is the meaning derived? Are you still able to understand what is being said? I'm changing the line. No taxes shall be collected except by an authority of law. Is the meaning derived? Is the logic met? Appa, why did you want two words? Why? They're both the same authority. You know? At the end of the day, you said authority of law, meaning any authority of law can do it.
You have to pay tax. You have a tax holder.
Okay.
Collecting means the tax is paid in a particular.
My question is, if you ignore one of the two, will it make a difference? What is the difference?
He first has to live here.
See, that is logic.
So I'm saying if it is, they will say this is started with the tax at 50%. We cannot show what I know. If it is only given collected, we cannot show it.
See, it's like this. Let's try the permutations. If I come and say no taxes shall be levied except by an authority of law. Now I have the power to levy. So Modi Sarkar comes on the stage and Nirmala ma'am comes on the stage and comes and says, you will now have to pay 40% tax. You will now have to pay 40% tax. Are you liable to pay? Yes. Are you liable to pay? Yes. Now tomorrow what happens? You don't pay the money. You don't pay the money. Person comes to your home, income tax department comes to your home and comes and says, give me the 40% because Nirmala ma'am asked for it. Nirmala ma'am asked for it. I said, I will not give it to you. I will not give it to you. Who are you to ask? Who are you to He says, I am the authority of law. I'm like, okay, so what? Because I have not given him the power to. I have only given them power to levy. I can tomorrow come and say that, boss, you never had the power to collect. Which means tomorrow I gave and I made the payment to Gunda. And I came and said, sir, usko de diya na, usse le lo. Yes or no? If I come and say that the power to collect is not with you, I can go and tell that, boss, there was a random Gunda standing on the road and he came and asked me the same 40%. And I gave off the 40% to him. Which means I have technically paid my tax. Just that it is not to government. But you never told me government should collect. You only told me government should. I did that. Purpose is defeated. Yes or no? Same logic. If it come and says no tax shall be collected except by an authority of law. Tomorrow Nirmala ma'am comes and says pay 40%. Guy comes to your home and comes and asks you for 40%. Can you give him 40%? Yes. Can you give him 40%? Yes. Will you give him 40%? You will come and give him 1 rupee. And you will say Ganpati ka chanda le le. Yes. You will say I will not pay you 40. I will only pay you 1 rupee. And when he asks why, you will come and say, who are you to come and ask me 40? Do you have the authority? Do you have the authority? No. If you don't have the authority, then technically the authority goes back to public. And I am also public. So according to me, I only want to pay 1 rupee, which is legally valid. Yes or no? Because now the tax itself becomes unconstitutional because you don't even have the power to levy. Yes or no? Yes or no? The point I'm trying to make people again is that when you read a law, every word has a meaning. One small mistake in the words, everything can go for a toss. Yes, and it has happened multiple times. There is this thing called as General Clauses Act, if you will understand. Yes. Now, for those who don't understand this in the past, what happened is back in times when independence was there. Every law was made from a masculine perspective. They always used to come and say, if there is a fraud happening, he shall be liable to imprisonment. Now, the point which you will think is, Rahul, okay, if you make a fraud, you will go for imprisonment. But the funny thing is, the law comes and says, he shall be liable for imprisonment, which means you are clarifying prison can only be done by male people. And therefore, every time a female was making a fraud, no one was going to jail because they said, I am not he. In today's world, that is also difficult. Yes or no? Yes. And so what happened is no one was going to jail because they were females. Now here is where the whole problem came. And that is when General Clauses Act came and said, okay boss, my mistake. I changed General Clauses Act where I came and said, going forward, whenever you use the word he, it is deemed that it also includes. So which means even though it is not there in Income Tax Act that he includes she, General Clauses comes and clarifies it includes she, and therefore now a woman can also go to prison. Correct, not correct? Yes. Now the point is not about General Clauses Act. The point is that the word he made an impact. Whereas you may think, Rahul, he is just a jargon. It doesn't matter. You could have come and told Rahul, he is not a big word, but it's a big word. Yes or no? Yes or no? There is a very simple example. When we read 94B, I'll come and tell you. Some places, like what happens is 94B comes and says you have to use the word a. And another place they use the word the. Do you think it's a difference? Do you think there is a difference? Do you think there is a difference? Understand, if I come and tell you, a person who's a non-resident pays interest. Interest will be disallowed. Interest will be disallowed for a person. And I say interest will be disallowed for the person. What is the difference, Rahul? If you use the word the person, you are coming and clarifying this person will take a disallowance. But if you say a person, he'll come and say, I am not that person. Go and collect it from my AE. AE is associated enterprise. So he will come and say, if I pay my interest to AE, AE will take a disallowance. Now AE will come and say, why the hell should I come to India and pay the tax? But the Indian guy will come and say, I am not A. Think about A and the making a difference. Small thing, but a big number. Because now you're avoiding taxes completely. This is what is called reading between the lines. Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes. Keep the thought in mind, people. Keep the thought in mind. Now, I have come and told in article number 265 that you will levy taxes, but I have not clarified which tax are you talking about. So which means there should now also be a law which comes and clarifies what taxes do you want. And there also should be a law which should come and clarify who will pay the tax and collect the tax. For which what happened is they introduced something called as article number 246, which came and clarified that 246 will come and tell you authority of law will decide the tax. Now they decided that Rahul, this will be done by 3 people. One is central, the other is third is together. third is together. Now you learned all this in inter, so I'm not going to clarify it too much, but you understand when it comes to income tax is a central law. GST is a concurrent law. Any examples of state law? Part of GST, concurrent law. Income on agricultural. So basically tax on agricultural income is a part of state. In simple words, Rahul, when you read the subject along with me, every time I read the subject with you, I will come and say agriculture income is partially integrated. Agriculture income is technically exempt from tax. Agriculture income is technically exempt from tax, but it has a special mechanism of computation of taxes, and therefore it is partially integrated. It's partially integrated. The reason it is because states have been given the authority to collect their taxes, and it is not that every state is collecting taxes. Some state do it, some state don't do it. Yes, point is when you read income tax, I will come and tell you agriculture income is not to be part as my scope except for computation of taxes. Are you clear, Delia? Good enough to go? Great. Now if you're moving on forward, Rahul, you're looking at something called as income tax, and we discussed that, Rahul, there is something called income tax laws. Now here is where the big question comes in, Rahul. When you talk about income tax laws, is laws bigger or act bigger? Law is bigger. Act is a part of law. What and all is other there? You have rules, then circulars, notifications, case laws. These are the 5 items which are a part of your syllabus. Now if you understand this carefully, act is created by legislative body, which is your parliament. Rules is created by administrative body, which is in income tax, CBDT, Central Board of Direct Taxes. Circulars and notifications is created by administrative body, which is your CBDT, and finally your judicial pronouncements are coming out from judicial body, which is your courts, and tribunals, Now in inter you had to leave out case laws. In finals you are now going to learn case laws. You have a set of around 150 odd case laws which you will have to read for your syllabus. Don't worry about it. The case law is not important. The story behind the case law is important. So we will discuss the story behind the case law. I will give you the background. You will tell me as a judge what is the answer, and we'll go with that. Yes. At the end of the batch, I will come and tell you which case laws to read from an exam perspective also. Yes. Because whatever case laws we're reading right now, nothing is coming for exam. Yes. These are a part of your study material. Yes. So these are all case laws for you to understand. After that, when your exam comes, ICAI will release a new set of case laws called as judicial announcements. In that, ICAI will give you 10 more case laws. And then ICAI will come and say, these are the case laws which are coming for exam. That means technically you have to read those only. But then you need these for your computational models. Yes. So we'll read both from a practical perspective and then you'll take it from there. Yes or no? Yes. These are what the 5 items which are there for you. Yes. Now if I have to clarify this quickly, Rahul, when it comes to Act, income tax, you are going to read something called as Income Tax Act 1961. You're going to read something called as Income Tax Act 1961. What are the other laws you're going to read? You're going to read something called as Black Money Act. Yes, when you say Black Money Act, it is Black Money and Undisclosed Investments Act and something like that. And then you have one more thing called as Finance Act 2016 for equalization levy. For your equalization levy, we would have also read Finance Act 2020, but it is scrapped. So 2.0 is scrapped, so therefore we'll only be reading 1.0. 2.0 is a part of your subject, people, in the sense that I've given it in the last page. Because understand, equalization levy 2.0 was removed only from July. It was still applicable till July. So I'm still not sure if ICAI would like to test you or not. Yes. So I'm waiting for the study material to come out. In case the study material does not even have the topic, then you will ignore the last chapter. If not, then we will keep the last chapter and we'll learn it. So there are some topics in the last chapter which is TBD, to be discussed. Yes, we'll discuss about it later. Yes, these are the 3 topics which you're going to learn from your syllabus perspective for the current attempt. But if you do understand and appreciate this from your inter, it is not that you are going to learn Income Tax Act 1961. You are going to learn Income Tax Act 1961 plus Finance Act 2024 plus Finance number 2 Act 2024. You people are a little special. You get 2 acts to read. Yes, you get a little too special extra treatment. You are getting to read 2 acts. Yes, but if you honestly ask me before your syllabus gets over, I know that there is an ordinance also going to come up. So you'll be reading 3 acts then. Yes, wo fun hoga. Alag fun happens. Every time in 2014 it's happened, 2019 also it's happened. Suddenly in the month of October or December, they'll suddenly think, okay, we missed out a few things, let's add an ordinance also. So they'll add an ordinance also before your syllabus comes in. Yes, Point is, this is what you have in your syllabus. Yes or no? Yes. Now, if you understand and appreciate this carefully, Rahul, you have to read 3 laws. Why are exactly you reading it? It's very simple. Income tax came and clarified that, Rahul, whatever I put in as a law in 1961, that is what is going to remain. That is what is going to remain. But every year, because it is a part of my finance budget, I want to keep changing a few things here and there so that my budget can be organized. And therefore, they decided that they'll bring in all the amendments by way of Finance Act. Which means technically, if you ask me, you're not reading Income Tax Act 1961 plus 224 acts. You're actually going to read Income Tax Act 1961, Finance Act 1962, 63, 64, go on and go forth. Yes, if you come and ask me what technically are you reading, you're technically reading Income Tax Act 1961 amended by Finance Act 2023 and prior plus another 2 acts. This is how the whole model works. Now, when it comes to act, Rahul, how does it work? It's very simple. When you start an act, it starts with something called as bill. And in India, the bill is normally passed on 1st February. I'm using the word normally. Yes, normally it is passed on 1st February when it is passed as a bill, which means Nirmala ma'am will come on the stage and she'll come and say, dear Bhai or Beno, this is what the bill is proposed for the current year. When I say current year, I mean financial year 24-25. Very good. Financial year 24-25. I will come and I'll bring a bill to you. Yes, I will take the bill and I will come and say, I'm placing the bill before you. This is what my bill is. Then what will happen? She will go for rounds. And then she will ask everyone that whether the bill is good, the bill is bad, does she want any changes? A matter of a month will be taken, and in the month she will find out if there is any changes to be made. Some inaccuracies, A becomes the becomes an, something like that. All those inaccuracies will be identified and the bill will be amended. So, which means the existing bill itself will now modify more. Which means वो bill comment करने के लिए they'll pass a new bill. Yes, so technically when a bill is passed, it is not finance bill. It is finance bill, then finance amendment bill, and then both are allocated together and becomes amended finance bill. That bill is taken, gone and submitted in the Lok Sabha, approved in Lok Sabha, taken from Rajya Sabha to for assent, only for signatures, no approvals. Take 14 days, approve it in 14 days, good for you. Don't approve it in 14 days, deemed approved. Within 14 days, he will sign the document off. It will become a act which will be published in the Official Gazette of India. Now, the point is very simple, people. You will not be given an act in your hand. No one will come and say act is passed, therefore look at it. It will be put in the Gazette and it is assumed that it has reached all over India. It is your responsibility to know everything about gazettes. Yes, so anything passed in the Gazette, you are supposed to be aware about it. A mistake made from my side as well. Honestly speaking, Finance Act 2024, I thought number 2 act will not come in until the end of this month, but then later on I realized 18th August it got passed. It got passed on 18th August itself, where they had put it in the Gazette itself. I was not aware about my mistake from myself. Yes, sometimes ignorance is also difficult. Yes, so you're not supposed to do that. Luckily, nothing changed. Therefore, whatever I told is right only. Yes, point is, this is how the whole process works. When it is a normal scenario, you are in a special case because you are in election year. And in election year, it is always required that the existing party and the new party gets an opportunity to present budgets independently. And therefore, what happened is in February, Nirmala ma'am came and she passed an interim budget, which was called as Finance Act 2024. After the elections were over, on 23rd July, she brought in the second bill called as Finance number 2 bill. Yes, it again went for rounds, it went for circulations, made some 144 amendments or something, 138 or 44 amendments they made. Yes, they made additional 138 to 144 amendments in the existing bill, brought in the bill, passed it in Lok Sabha, took it to Rajya Sabha, passed it on 18th August, and as we speak today, you have a Finance Act 2024, Finance number 2 Act 2024. This is how the whole model works. Are you clear till here? Yes, but it is not a part of syllabus, but let me just clarify to you. Now, Rahul, imagine a case where what has happened is 2 budgets are passed, and we know both the budgets has some mistakes. There is some important changes to make. Do you think you'll wait till next February to get it? You will now have to pass a extraordinary meeting. These extraordinary meetings are normally done in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, where what happens is now, if you want to pass something, it cannot be called as a bill. It cannot be called as an act. Yes, because it is not finance related. It is more to solve a certain purpose. certain purpose. For example, in 2019, they came and they brought in this amendment of 115BAA and 115BAB in the middle after the budget and all was passed. Now, understand, whatever amendments were brought were only specific to direct tax and income tax, or was it specific to whole finance? It is only specific to direct tax, which means when you bring in the third amendments, will you call it as a finance number 3 act? No, you can't do that. Yes, at this point of time, the extraordinary meetings which are conducted are now called something as ordinance. Where what happens is an extraordinary meeting is issued, and in that extraordinary meeting they come and say that we will pass something called as an ordinance. This is as good as you coming and saying in your Companies Act, you will pass an extraordinary meeting, then get ratifications. Yes, so what will happen is, immediately what will happen, an ordinance will be passed. Now this will not go through approvals. An ordinance will be passed, which means agar today Nirmala ma'am comes and shows this thing, this is final. There is no scope for discussion. Today when she passes it, today it comes into picture. Apo, you can come and say, Rahul, then in that case Nirmala ma'am will like to do every changes by way of ordinance only. No. What happens is they will come and say, Rahul, today the parliament is not in session, but these amendments are important. So what will we do? We will pass an ordinance, and today the ordinance will become effective. But with the disclaimer that when the next parliament is in session, this ordinance will be presented, confirmed and approved. If it gets approved, then it will be applicable right from the ordinance date. If it gets rejected, it will become void ab initio. Which means what they are doing in the session parliament is only ratifying what was earlier passed. Now, if I have to give you 2019, it was in 2019 called as taxation laws. Any guesses? Taxation laws. Amendment Act. It was called as Taxation Laws Amendment Act 2019. Yes. So if you want to make any changes like this in the current budget, what will happen is they will pass something called as Taxation Laws Amendment Act 2024. That is how the amendments will come into picture. Are you clear till here? Yes. This is what your Income Tax Act looks like. Any doubts till here? No. Now here is where brings the next question. Imagine you're going for an interview. Yes, I am the interviewer, and I come to you and I come and say, dear person, give me the tax rates of an individual. Your answer is very good. If you jump to the person and you come and say first 2,50,000 0, next 2,50,000 5%, your interview is over. You're already rejected because you do not even know which assessment year is he asking for. Yes. Now, in all honesty, you also understand that when you complete your finals and when you go for your interviews, by that time a new budget would have already been passed. Yes or no? Now, you may have known it, you may not have known it, but you assumed that he's asking you for your exam attempt. So, which means you jumped and gave him numbers which was applicable for your finals. But by the time you went for interview, already budget had changed. Now, maybe he's expecting for, you gave him, you're already rejected. The one and the first question to first come and ask is, which assessment year do you want the discussion for? Assuming he comes and says, I want it for assessment year 25-26, you are happy because Adani ka. Assuming he says 26-27, are you screwed? No, why? You will you will go to him and come and say, I understand you want 26-27. Unfortunately, I may not have gone through it for the exams, but I'm happy to give you the answer. If you can supply me the copy. It's an honest question. Yes, people do understand the fact that when you are a CA, no one expects that everything is back of your head. Yes, because if you're going to give answers in a minute's time, no one is going to pay you for it. You will always have to take that additional 2 days to create that fear that yes, you're doing something great. So everyone is okay with you having an act. Yes. Now the only comedy is if you go and ask him for the act, you should also know where to find it in the act. Yes or no? Yes. Now you went and you showed off and you came and said, give me the copy. Now he went and he gave you the finance copy of 2025. Now here is where the question is. He is telling you, give me the assessment year 26-27 ka data. Where do you go and check? You will move to the annexures. You'll move to the next year, which is your schedule number 1. Now here is where the problem is. The moment you open schedule number 1, the part number 1 gives you the tax rates. If you read the part number 1 to him, you are rejected, because part number 1 of Finance Act will give you the previous year's budget. Will give you the previous year's budget, which means it will clarify to you what is the tax rates of the previous year. Correct. It will give you the budget for the previous year. It will not give you for previous year, because that is your previous year. So it will give you for the previous year, or your assessment year basically, or your assessment year. You are asking for assessment year 26, 27. You will look at for part number 3. You will look for part number 3, which means, Rahul, when you look at a Finance Act, you need to look for 4 parts. There is part number 1, there is part number 2, there is part number 3, and part number 4. 1 comes and talks about tax of assessment year 25, 26. You are reading Finance Act 25, people. So you are reading for assessment year 25, 26, or in simple words, financial year 24, 25. Part number 2 is going to talk about of TDS of current year and artham. Hey, TDS of
24, 25, 24.
Financial year 25, 26. Which budget are you reading? You are reading Finance Act 25, people. Why will you worry about tax TDS of last year? Yes, part number 3 will tell you advanced tax computation of your seeking day loose se FY 25, 26, or in simple words, assessment year 26, 27. Understand, people, they do not come and tell you that I'm giving you tax rates for next year. They'll come and say, I'll give you advanced tax rates of current year, which is nothing but tax rates of next year. And finally, part number 4 will talk about your mode of agricultural income tax. If you have agricultural income, how do you bring that into picture? This is what your part 4 looks like. Yes. Now, the problem is, people, there are 2 ways a person can give you the book. Either he can give you the Finance Act copy, in which case it is okay. He'll give you the schedule. You can find it out there. Sometimes he may end up giving you the whole income tax book itself. Don't come and tell him that, no, I want Finance Act. Because if you know, Finance Act is a part of, which means you'll find it in last pages. The last pages of income tax will actually have a copy of Finance Act also. So you can find it there also. You should be able to find it from there also. Is that clear? Yes. Let me take a minute and show you that in the portal also. In case the person comes and says, I'm a little poor, I don't have a copy, check it in the portal. Yes, this is where you can check it. Where do you go, people? Income tax? India alla? See, this is the problem. When you open incometax.gov.in, it opens the e-filing portal. You have to come down, you will click on Income Tax India. Yes, there are basically 2 portals, people. Income Tax Puerto Rico, filing kaga vera portal and laws kaga vera portal. Click on it, you will find something called taxes, laws and rules. Click on that. Now here is where the question is, do you want the act or do you want the Finance Act? If you want the Income Tax Act amended, then you will go for Income Tax Act. But if you want the Finance Act, then you will click on Finance Acts. Yes. Now, to clarify this once again, Income Tax Act has not still been amended by Finance Act. It is yet to be amended. So if you click on the Income Tax Act, you'll notice that it is only amended up to Finance Act 2024. This has to change to Finance number 2 Act. If it changes to Finance number 2, that is when it is updated. Which means if you take a PDF copy here, the whole Income Tax Act can be downloaded, but it will only be Income Tax Act relating to first interim budget. It is still not in the final budget, so don't touch this. What you can rather do is you can go to Income Tax Laws, go to Finance Act. I'm not sure if this is amended also. It is there. So you can click on this. It is there here. Yes. Now if you notice here, it is Finance number 2, which means if you click on this, you will have section-wise data. Click on the last you will find your schedules. So you have third schedule, you go a little back. If it loads, you have income tax, which is nothing but your first schedule. Click on it, it will come and give you the acts. Yes. Now, if you jump, you'll notice the tax rates are here itself. If you start telling these numbers, you are already rejected because it is for preceding previous year. Hey, if I read this, nowhere it is coming and saying it is for preceding previous year. How did you find out? How do you know this is preceding previous year? Very good. It will be clarified in section number 2. Section number 2 will come and clarify that whatever rates are given in schedule number 1, first part will have last year's rate and third part will have current year's rate. So we have to read it in harmony. You have to read it in harmony. I will ignore this part number 1. I will go directly down. Part number 2 is all about your TDS. It's all about your TDS. Then you will go to part number 3, which will come and give you the tax rates. Yes, so this is what you're going to look at, because if you notice, it comes and uses the word for advanced tax, for computing advanced tax. Now, obviously, if you're talking about advanced tax of current year, that is talking about the next year. That is what the whole premise is. Are you clear? Yes. Now, this also brings into the question, Rahul, how do you read an act? Let's go back and let's try to read this act on a high level. On a high level, I'm looking at Finance Act, people. Every time you read an act, it will always start with section number 1, which will be talking about the short title, extent and commencement. It will show a short title, extent and commencement. If I'm reading Finance Act 2024, the short title will be called as Finance Act 2024. The extent will be to the whole of India, because income tax is a central act. In the past, this will also come and clarify that it applies to whole of India, including Jammu and Kashmir. But with the abolition of the constitution of article number 370, it is not valid anymore. You just have to mention whole of India. Then brings in the third question as to when it is applicable from. Now, if you realize the fact, Finance Act comes in with amendments not just relating to direct taxes, it comes in with amendments relating to other laws also. And therefore, this will always come and clarify that certain amendments are for certain period and certain amendments are from another period. If you read this very carefully, it says, save as otherwise provided, 2 to 87 shall be deemed to come in force from 1st April. It will come as on the date when the central government will notify. If you actually notice, point number 1 is all direct tax amendments. Point number 2 is all indirect tax amendments. So they are coming clarifying that when it comes to indirect tax amendments will not be notified. It will be notified by the GST Council. Meaning, I will bring in the law, GST Council will tell us when to implement. Yes, but when it comes to this, they will come and say it is deemed effect from 1st April 2024. Now, understand, it comes and says it is effect from 1st April 2024, meaning it is assumed that it is there from 1st April 2024. But if you read the Finance Act is a little confusing, because if you read section number 2, for example, it will say, maybe not this one. Let's pick another one. If you read section number 10, it says with effect from 1st April 2020. Now, I don't understand. Section number 2 said it is with effect from 1st April 24, but section number 4 comes and says it is with effect from 1st April 25. What the hell is wrong? Understand, when you said in 2 that it is with effect from 1st April 24, you came and said that the law is there from 24. The law is there from 24. But when you read it as with effect from 25, it does not mean that it is applicable from next April. It is clarifying that it is applicable from assessment year 25-26. Yes. In simple words, Rahul, every Finance Act and every Income Tax Act is drafted from assessment year perspective. It is drafted from assessment year perspective. Don't come and think that, Rahul, no, it is sold 1st April 25, which means current year nothing will apply, next year only it will apply. It is starting from current year itself. Yes or no? Yes or no? But there is an exception to the rule. People. Please understand, whenever you read the word 1st April 2025 and you call it as from assessment year 25-26, it is only in relation to computational provisions. Things which will impact your advanced tax. If you are looking at administrative provisions, meaning assessment, raid, TDS, all those things will be applicable from that financial year. So if there they use the word 1st April 25, it means it is applicable from financial year 25-26. Yes. Now this is a small mistake. I already told you in orientation class also. There is this amendment which is brought in section 194T. There is an amendment which is brought as section 194T, which is called as salary to partners. Yes. Now it is a computational provision, which means whatever date they mention there is the financial year date. Unfortunately, they forgot the thing and they mentioned it as 1st April 25. Which means in Finance Act 24, they're coming and saying for the next 6 months, this amendment is not even there. It is only applicable from 1st April 25. Where the stupidity comes because before 1st April 25, in Feb 25, you anyway have to pass a new budget. Yes or no? So it is like anyway you could have made the amendment in Feb 25, but you are suddenly bringing in an amendment in 24 itself because the fact is that it is a computational provision. It is a computational provision. Yes or no? Yes. In simple words, Rahul, when you read a Finance Act, always ask yourself a question whether the amendment is income related or the amendment is administrative related. If the amendment is income related, then whatever date you see is assessment year date. But if you see it as a administrative date, then it is a financial year perspective. Are you clear? Are you clear? Any doubts? No. Exception number 2. Even if it is an income related exception, even if it is an income related exception, sometimes it may so happen that the amendment may come from 1st October, 23rd July. In that case, it is not assessment year related, then it becomes financial year related. Then it becomes financial year related. For example, equalization levy came and clarified that the amendment is applicable from 23rd July 2024. Now it's weird because when you say it is applicable from 23rd July 2024, you don't know whether it's assessment year 24-25 or assessment year 25-26. In that case, you will come and say even if it is income and tax related computationals, they will still be applicable from that respective date. That respective date. Yes or no? Yes. Which means, Rahul, when you look at April, you need to ask yourself if it is income or administration, and if it is any random date, then it is that effective date. Then it is that effective date. Are you clear? Are you clear? Yes, great. Now, if I have to give you an hindsight on how an act looks like, people, because we are going to do tests and everything, you're going to be computing and reading acts for me. You need to know how to read an act. You need to know how to read an act. Whenever you read an act will have first thing called, the first thing in act will be called as chapters. Yes, the first thing in every act will be called as chapters, and they will always be in Roman numerals. They will always be in Roman numerals. Under chapters, you will have something called as sections. So you'll start with section number 1, which we discussed. Then you'll have section number 2, which is section number 3. From here it starts. From here it starts. Normally in every act which you read, section number 3 will be a charging section. Will be a charging section which will come and tell you why is this act there. But in Income Tax Act, that charging section is section number 4. Section number 4. People, whenever you read an act, the first and the most important thing for you to do is know what is section number 4. Because if it is not there in section number 4, it is not even covered in that section. Yes, section number 4 will come and tell you what to do. A simple example I give you. Tomorrow, if you come and say there is a robot which is making income, can you collect taxes on that robot? Can you collect taxes on that robot? No. Why? Because it is not a person. Yes, and the reason that it is not a person is given in section number 4. Because section number 4 comes and clarifies that taxes can only be levied on the total income of a person. When he is not a person, he does not have income, and if he does not have income, he does not have a tax, which means you cannot collect the tax. Yes, so for you to start any conversation, the first thing you need to ask yourself is it covered in section number? If yes, then you collect taxes. If not, then you don't collect taxes. Are you clear? Are you clear? Yes. Now that you've read a section, this is how it will go. This is how it will go. Under every section, you will have something called as subsection. Under every subsection, you will have something called as clause. Under every clause, you will have something called as subclause. Under every subclause, you will have something called as no. Provision is what you are reading. That is not under. No idea? No idea. Under a subclause, you have something called as item. And under item, you have something called as sub-item. This is how it is read. This is how it is read. It is section, subsection, clause, subclause, item and sub-item. Item and sub-item. This is how it is read. Yes or no? Yes or no? I'm going to write something for you. It is 2, 24, 13, A, 5. Read it for me. Section 2, subsection 24. Look, 13. Subclause A, item 5. 24. Manav. Clause. Okay. Read. Second one. Section 1, section 54, subsection 1, clause 13, subclause 3, item A, subitem 5. Now this is not existent, but I'm just giving an example. Yes. Section 2, section 2, clause 24. It is section 2, clause 24, subclause 13, item A, subitem 5. Subitem 5. Rahul, what exactly went wrong? So understand, when you use the word subsection, you are telling it is a sub to a section, which means everything which is linked to each other is a part of the section. Read section number 2. It talks about definitions. Every item in the definition is linked to each other. True or false? If it is not linked to each other, how the hell are they subsection to each other? Which means they automatically move to clause. They automatically move to clause. Yes or no? Yes or no? Ade Mari, I give you something called section 10. I don't know, maybe how do you read this? Section 10, because section 10 is your exemption sections, where they come and give you exemptions every person can have, which means none of the exemptions are linked to each other. If you are available for this exemption, you take this exemption, otherwise you can ignore it off. Ade Mari, you have something called as section 6, 3, 5, A. This is section 6, subsection 3, because 6 talks about and every residential status is linked to each other, and therefore they have a sublinking to it. They have a sublinking to it. Do not go to interview and come tell someone 224 is 2 subsection 24. He will laugh at your face. Yes, good learning. If you have learned it today, that's a good learning for you. Let's work with that. Yes, understand people, if it is linked to each other is when there is a sub to it. When there is no linking to it, it automatically moves to the next phase. It automatically moves to the next phase, which means it is 2 clause 24, and then you go forward, and then you go forward. Are you clear till now? Yes. Apart from that, the other things which you told in an act, Rahul, what are the other things which you read in an act? There is something called as proviso. What is a proviso, Rahul? It is an exception to the rule. It is an exception to the rule. If the main section comes and tells something, proviso can come and give you an exception to that. Proviso can come and tell you exception to that. Question to you: proviso is bigger or section is bigger? Proviso is bigger or section is bigger? Proviso is bigger. Proviso is bigger. If the section is coming and saying you have to pay 20%, but the if the section is coming and saying you have to pay 20%, but the proviso says pay 10%, you will pay. How is section bigger?
Provided if you satisfy also 10%.
That is what is the major thing, no? I'll give you a simple example. The section 115 JB comes and says any company is liable to pay MAT of 18.5%. However, proviso comes and says if you are an IFSC unit, you will have to pay only 15% or 9%. For example, you'll have to pay 9%. Question: IFSC will pay because it is there in proviso. But if you look at the section, it is there in proviso section also. IFSC is there in section also. IFSC is there in proviso also. You chose proviso because proviso is bigger. Yes or no? Yes or no? A proviso remains superior over section. That is what the whole reason of having a proviso is. That is what the whole reason of proviso is. Now, if you have to write a proviso, Rahul, how do you write it? It is called as provided that, next is provided further, next is also, next is, after that it continues with also. After that it continues with also. This is how a proviso is there. Yes. So if you read section 1023C, there are almost about 18 provisos. So it is 1023C, proviso 1 will say provided that, then it will say provided further, then it will say provided also poite irukum. Yes, and this year is when they came and realized, you know what, it looks stupid because we have the same amendments in section 12, and so this year they came and said going forward 1023C is not there, which means inimala you will not read 1023C, which means all the provisos are useless now. Yes, but it is there. Point is, that is how it is there. That is how it is there. Are you clear? Are you clear? Yes. Rahul, apart from proviso, you have something called as explanation. What is explanation? It either clarifies something or it expands something. It either clarifies something or it expands something. Explanation also has the power to deem something else. Explanation also has the powers to deem something else. For example, when you see the word called family, explanation will define family but can also deem that I will include 2 more people. Yes, so explanation helps you expand the scope, at the same time elaborate the scope. At the same time elaborate the scope. Yes or no? Yes. Question, Rahul, explanation is bigger or section is bigger? Section is bigger. Section is bigger. Understand, explanation is only clarifying things. It cannot go beyond the scope of the section. It cannot go beyond the scope of the section. You cannot bring in anything extra in the explanation other than clarifying things. Because if you want to bring something extra, you'll have to bring it by way of subsection. You have to bring it by way of subsection. You cannot bring it by way of explanation. There was this very famous thing which happened in GST. If you notice, I don't know if you're aware about it. You have this section 7 called as supply. You have section 7 called as supply. In the past, what happened is somehow they had defined the supply. And they had brought in this one extra thing where they came and said that if you are going to have a certain supply, you don't know whether it's going to be a good or a service. It can be both. It can be both. What happened is they brought it as an explanation. So they came and said, for the purpose of section 7 subsection 1, these are the items where you will define whether it is a good or a service. Question to you, did section 7 come and ask you for good or a service? Section 7 only came and told you what is a supply beyond the scope. Therefore, later on what they did is they brought it as section 7 subsection 1A, where they now came and clarified, including section 7 subsection 1. Whenever an item of supply is defined in subsection 7 section 7 subsection 1, if an item is unclear on what it is and it is mentioned in schedule number 1, then in that case you will define whether it is a good or a supply, which means explanations cannot expand the scope of the section. They can only clarify the scope of the section. They can expand the definition of the section. Are you clear? Yes. Now when it comes to explanation, it is not explanation further, explanation provided and all. It is explanation 1, explanation 2 and going forward. And going forward. Yes or no? Yes. What else do you have? Anything else you have? Anything else you have? You may go to a certain section and the certain section may start with something called as notwithstanding. Notwithstanding. This is called as non-obstante clauses. This is called as non-obstante clauses, where they are now coming and clarifying that, Rahul, there is one section, there is another section. There is an other section. Somehow these two sections are contradicting and I don't know which one to use. In that case, you will go and look for notwithstanding. Whichever section has notwithstanding will become superior. For an example, you have section number 40. Talks about disallowances. People, you're in finals. Now you should know what section talks about. Inter you can ignore. You cannot ignore it in finals and all. Section 40 talks about disallowances. This section now comes and clarifies that even if something is allowed under section 28 to 38, even if it is there in 28 to 38 and is allowed as a deduction, if these conditions in section 40 are not satisfied, then it will be disallowed, which means 40 has superior rights, and if it has to have superior rights, 40 will start with notwithstanding anything contained contrary in section 28 to 38. Contrary word is important, people, because understand, if 38 itself would have come and told disallow, but 40 there is an allowance, then you will come and say 40 is superior, therefore I will allow it in 40. They are saying no, if it was disallowed in 38, it is disallowed in 38, but if it is allowed in 38 is when I am disallowing it in 40. Wordings are important. They will always use the word notwithstanding anything contained contrary in section 28 to 38. Adhe mari you have section 115 JB, talks about MAT computation, where it comes and says notwithstanding anything contained in any provisions of the act Notwithstanding anything contained contrary any provisions of the act, this section will tax income at 18.5% on your book profits. Which means now I'm coming and saying I don't care anything in this whole act. I will be superior. I will be superior. Now here is where the question is. Rahul, what happened is there is a non-resident. There is a non-resident who is making income in India. Who's making income in India. Now the problem what happened is this guy is making income in India, and as per the treaty provisions, treaty provisions come and say this income is taxable outside India, meaning it's not taxable in India, which means it is exempt from tax in India. But 115JB comes and says this person also is required to do MAT computation, and whatever income he has to pay 18.5%. Now the problem is 115JB comes and says notwithstanding anything contained contrary in the whole act. And section 90 also comes and says notwithstanding anything contained contrary in the whole act. Which means this is also coming and saying tax, this is also coming and saying don't tax. Both are notwithstanding. What do you do? You understood my question? You understood my question? Whichever is? The rule of whichever is beneficial can only be enforced when the law is ambiguous. There is nothing ambiguous about this. He will have to is okay. Why is he have to? Who told you that he has to? Both the provisions are saying notwithstanding. What to do? Question. Taxable, not taxable? Matla podama podukurada. Podama podukurada. Act wording says notwithstanding anything contained contrary in any provisions of the act. Same line is there in JB also, same line is there in 90 also. You will choose to tax it under MAT or you choose to exempt it under MAT. You will choose to none, nothing relating to DTAA in 115JB. Taxable, not taxable? Nah, I'm not getting. No, it doesn't. That is only for treaty provisions relating to income and dividends. I'm not talking about interest and dividends. There also it comes and says it is only exempt if it is less than 15%. It doesn't. That is 90. It doesn't say it. Okay. So which means they are coming and saying you have to always follow treaty, but you can follow income tax if it is beneficial. So treaty is coming and saying exempt, act is coming and saying taxable. So you will choose JB. You will choose JB. Understand, people, a simple rule of thumb is that when two things are superior, the last one becomes more superior. Then the order of sequence comes into picture. Because 115JB prevails after 90, 115JB takes superpowers. That is how it works. It's also a simple example in something called as 80G and 80GG. 80G talks about rent paid in case of absence of HRA. Now both the provisions come and say you have to compute adjusted total income, and both the provisions of adjusted total income come and say you should do total income taking all deductions except for this deduction. The question is 80G wants you to take double G deduction and double G wants you to take G deduction. In that case, it is very clear that what you'll do, you'll first compute 80G, ignoring GG also, and then you'll do 80 double G, taking G into consideration. Yes, the rule of thumb is very simple. When there are two superior sections, last one will become legal. That is how it works. Clear enough? Good learnings. Yes. Rahul, if at all you have to make the opposite of this, if you don't want it to be an superior section, you want an inferior section, it becomes, how do you write? Very good. It starts with something called as subject to the provisions of subject to the provisions of so and so. For example, there is a section called section 30, talks about expenses relating to furniture and plant and machinery. Furniture and plant and machinery. This section comes and says, subject to the provisions of 38, these are the allowable deductions. Meaning they are coming and clarifying which is superior. 38 is superior. What does 38 talk about? That is 37. You have read it, you just don't know it. 38 talks about items which are commonly used for personal and business reasons. Expenses commonly incurred for personal and business reasons. We discussed it in the summaries, where we always discuss that when you read business and professional, you can split it accordingly and the personal will become disallowed. That is 38. Yes, so they are coming and clarifying that in 30 everything is allowed. But if anything is in 38, meaning if you classify something as personal in nature, then it will get disallowed. Yes, so that is called subject to the provisions of the act. That is called subject to the provisions of the act. Are you clear? You understand the whole background? Yes. Now when you read a section, please read it that way. Please read it that way. This is how you have to read a section in order to understand what exactly are you talking about. Yes. One small request which I make people whenever you read a section is first read the whole section. Don't read parts and parts. Read the whole section once. Understand the idea of the section. Then start making notes. In the sense that there will be some items which will link to another item. For example, subsection 1 ka definition will be in subsection 4. And subsection 4 ka items will be in subsection 2. There is always a jumbled up model. Yes, income tax works in a very complicated manner. So they always jumble up things and give it to you. So if you want to simplify it for yourself, first prepare a note where you're able to sequence it properly. Then start complicating it. Yes, after you start making a note, then you will start complicating and ye missing hai, wo missing hai, shayad ye galat hai, shayad wo galat hai. That's how the best way to approach life is. Yes, if you do it that way, then only it'll make fun. Yes, I have two sections in mind which my friends already know about, which is called section 80 JJAA and section 94B. And section 94B, these are my two predominant sections where I feel everything is wrong in life. Yes, you will read the section and you will not understand anything because everything is clear, but everything is wrong. Right? So we will do seminars on those sessions. We'll do seminars on those where I'll come and tell you how to approach the section. Obviously, I will not do it. You people will do it. You people will do it, and that time I will discuss. Yes. So that is how the whole premise is going to look like. Are you clear? Yes. 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 Great. This is how an act looks like, people. Now you look at it as Income Tax Act, you look at it as Finance Act, you look at it as any other act, it doesn't matter. The thing about an Income Tax Act and a Finance Act, one thing which you have to understand is that Finance Act will not come and give you the wordings of Income Tax Act. Yes. For example, when a Finance Act gives you an amendment, it will not come and tell you that the Income Tax Act has this and therefore you change this. It will simply come and say wherever in income tax you read this word, you change it to this word. You change it to this word, and that's where life becomes complicated. That's why life becomes complicated, because now it's your job to first open Income Tax Act, then open Finance Act, then take this amendment and put it inside the Income Tax Act, and then read the full Income Tax Act as if it is read along with Finance Act, and then ask yourself a question if it is fitting properly or not fitting properly. Because somehow if you make one small mistake in putting the word a little bit before, the wordings may change. The meaning changes and the logic changes. Yes, and that's where everything goes south. Yes, it also becomes extremely crucial to keep in mind the commas and everything, because one small comma mistake, everything goes toss. Yes, when you bring in that amendment, you also need to know whether you should add in an extra comma or you should not add in an extra comma. Because if you add an extra comma, now you have to take a pause and then you have to look at something else. But if you don't add in a comma, you have to read everything together. And if reading everything together, something may go wrong. It's like in 94B, it comes and says, excess interest means interest disallowed in excess of 30% of EBITDA or interest paid to AE, whichever is less. It says interest in excess of 30% of EBITDA or actual interest, whichever is less. Now, I don't know what it means. There is two ways I can read it. Option number one, I can read it as interest in excess of 30% of EBITDA or actual interest, whichever is less. Option number one. Option number two, I can come and say interest in excess of, point number A, 30% of EBITDA or actual interest, whichever is less. Because the wording says interest in excess of 30% of EBITDA or actual interest, whichever is less. Now, I don't know whether the actual interest should be next line or should I take after excess itself next line, because there is no comma anywhere. And if you do understand, both have a different computation. You can disallow something here, you can disallow something here, they may not match. They may not match. The only reason this happened is because you have a comma or you don't have a comma. You don't have a comma. And now you don't know what to do with that thing. Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes, these are the fun things. These are the fun things. You learn all these things along with me. This is what we'll be doing. Clear enough? Yes, great. Now that you've understood an act, people, now that you've understood an act, we also have something called as rules. Let's quickly complete our basics. We have something called as rules. Rules are in income tax called as income tax rules 1960. Created specifically as 1962 because you're looking at assessment year model. The same logic works in Income Tax Act 1961. Income Tax Act 1961 came into force from 1st April 1962 because you're talking about assessment year model. You're talking about assessment year model. Question to you, can a rules override act? Can a rules override act? No. A rules can only tell you how to do an thing in act. Can only tell you how to do an act. If a rule is overriding an act, the rule becomes void ab initio. It becomes void ab initio. Clear enough? Yes. Then you have something called as circulars and notifications. Both are issued by CBDT. Circulars give you clarifications on loopholes. They give you clarifications on loopholes or things which are not present. They give you clarifications on things which are not present or loopholes kind of model. It is binding on department because they are giving clarifications on loopholes. They cannot give you clarification on what is a loophole. They can only give you clarifications to a department because you now have the power to dispute it. You have the power to dispute it. You can go ahead and tell the court that, boss, I don't care what the circular says. Enega Puerto Rico, circular is wrong. Enega Puerto Rico, circular is wrong. I can go and fight and I can win the case. Definitely possible. Definitely possible. On the other hand, you have something called as binding on everyone. Binding on everyone gives you. What does notification do? You have to do it in this way. What does notification do, people? About on amendments on what? Amendments in act, is it? That is not notification, that is commentary. That is rules. Notifications basically notify certain class of people for certain exemptions, informs you about people who are exempt. Notification is also used for you to amend what? Can notifications amend act? It will be used to amend rules. Hey, understand, notifications is used for giving general public details. And that is what rules is also doing, which means if you want to amend a rule, you will know amended by. That is what notification does. Yes. So in simple words, Rahul, notification will give you extension of due dates, give you some kind of notification to a class of people, come and confirm to you which of the people are exempt from taxes, come and clarify as to how do you amend rules, come and make amendment to rules. All those things are done by notifications. All those things are done by notifications, and therefore it is binding on all. Which of the two is binding on department? Both are binding on department. It is not circulars. Understand, which of them are binding on department only? MCQ question. MCQ question. If they come and ask you which is binding on department, it is both. But if they say which is binding on department only, then it is circulars. Then it is circulars. Clear enough? Clear enough? Yes. That brings you to the last thing, people, which is called as judicial pronouncements, or as you call it, case laws. As you call it, case laws. Good that you are in finals. Now you will be learning all case laws, and so therefore you need to know how the sequence works. How the sequence works in income tax. How the sequence works, people. First of all, you will go and make an assessment with an assessing officer, and in all practical sense, assessing officer will make disallowance, which means you will have a bad order. Bad order. You have a bad order. You will now have to make a two. The first person to whom you will make an appeal will be called as CIT capital A, which is called as Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals, which is called as Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals. Now this guy is a part of the department itself. He is technically the boss of your assessing officer. Technically, not really, but technically. He's technically the boss of your assessing office. So it's like you're going and complaining to the boss that your kid is stupid. Yes, and you will try to justify it to him. Now, if he is happy with you, he will give it to you. Or if he is very favored to his child, he will come and say, get lost. He will come and say, get lost. The moment you lose the case in CIT, you move to something called as ITAT. You move to something called as ITAT, which is nothing but your income tax appellate tribunal. Income tax appellate tribunal, a quasi-judicial court created specifically for answering only direct tax matters. Specifically for only direct tax matters, because you do not want to go to sessions court and everything and ask them what is tax. They won't know. So therefore, you created a special body where it will only be income tax matters. Yes, the people who will be answering this will be two people. One will be called a judicial member, one will be called an accountant member. An accountant member are normally a professional, and a judicial member will normally be a retired judge. So they're asking two people, one from a law perspective and one from technical perspective. Both have to be a part of it. Either at least it'll be two people or it'll be three people. Either of the two will happen. Assuming ITAT is not favoring it, you go to High Court. After High Court, you move to, after Supreme Court, you move to, we go to, very good. If you are relating to an international matter, if it is relating to an international matter like the Vodafone judgment, all these things will move to something called as ICJ, International Court of Justice. Or if you want to go and have a mutual discussion, then it will go to International Arbitration Council. Yes, Vodafone judgment was moved to Arbitration Council because there was nothing to interpret. So they moved to Arbitration Council and they came and said, "Bus, India is being stupid. I don't want to work with India anymore. That's when Arbitration Council came into picture and they came and said, Vodafone, tum jeet gaye. Take the case. India lost. Understand, this will only happen in case it is a cross-border transaction. It will only happen in case of cross-border transaction, meaning all international taxation related matters will be covering here. Apart from that, everything else will stop at Supreme Court area. Question to you, Rahul. Any judgment passed by CIT will be applicable for, will be binding on, only for that jurisdiction. It's not. It's only a, in a very rude sense, it is a revision petition, where you're going and asking him that, sir, he's passed something, why don't you change it, right? Because if you notice, in CIT level, you are actually not allowed to remand the case also, except for the amendment which has come in the current year, because they don't want you to remand the case and tell him that you do it yourself, because then in that case, you're passing a judgment. It's a case where you're coming and telling him that you want him to correct the mistake, right? So it's more like a revision option. I wouldn't call it as a quasi-judicial body. That's not how it works. Yeah, because an ITAT has the power to remand. CIT does not have the power to remand anything. Clear enough? Yes. Now, if it comes to CIT level, Rahul, anything which is passed by CIT will be applicable to his jurisdiction, which means if a CITA passes something, whatever jurisdiction he has under him, all those places he has to pass the same judgment. He cannot pass one for you and one for another person. But at the same time, please do understand that if a CIT passes it, it is not applicable to the next CIT. That is not how it works. For example, if you are a person who's handling a bigger client, like an LTO client, large taxpayer unit client, then all your jurisdiction is with CIT Appeals 18, I think so. Or it is with CIT Appeals LTO. Right now, I think it's CIT Appeals LTO, but it's moved to NFAC, just clarify. Yes, so it will be with CIT Appeals LTO. Yes, now which means any appeal which happens will be sent to CIT Appeals LTO, and whatever judgment CIT Appeals LTO will be applicable for LTO's cases, will be applicable for CIT jurisdiction 5 also, because corporate circle 5 also forms part of LTO. Yes, so whatever judgment he passes will be applicable for any judgments passing to corporate circle 5, any judgments passing to LTO also. That is how the whole model will work. But he will not be applicable for any judgments which are passed by corporate circle 4, because corporate circle 4 has a CIT 4. Then in that case, their judgments will be passed by CIT Appeals 4, and CIT Appeals 4 does not have to look at CIT Appeals 5. Are you clear? ITAT. Any judgment passed by ITAT will be applicable to that state. It will be applicable to the state, because every state normally has one ITAT except for two. There are 2 states where there are multiple ITATs. I think it's Pondicherry. I think so. I think it's Pondicherry, and one more is in Kolkata. Maybe, I don't remember it properly. 2 states are right now a state where they have 2 ITATs. Apart from that, every other state has only one ITAT, so it is applicable to the whole state. Question, Rahul. Now ITAT Chennai has passed a judgment. Can you go to your CIT Appeals and come and say, sir, ITAT passed, therefore you allow it in my favor? Allowed, not allowed? Allowed, not allowed? Perfectly allowed, because part of the same state. Part of the same state. Yes or no? Yes. Rahul, if it is a high court, applicable to same state, quasi judicial court. So it is applicable to the same state. Whatever high court passes, ITAT has to follow, CIT appeals also has to follow in that same state. Rahul, whatever Supreme Court passes will be applicable to whole of India. Whole of India, which means you can go to any other high court also. You can go to Maharashtra High Court and come and say Supreme Court passed the judgment, therefore you also have to allow. But you cannot go to Chennai High Court and come and say Maharashtra High Court passed, therefore you also allow. Will they allow? Will they allow? No. Understand, you can refer, but you cannot bind them with it. You can refer them with it, but you cannot bind them with it. They cannot be binded on it unless and until it is passed by. Question. Rahul, is Supreme Court bigger or Act is bigger?
Supreme Court is bigger until the act is amended.
Very good. A Supreme Court is bigger to the extent the act is not amended. Understand, Supreme Court has the power to interpret an act. Yes, so it can only have a binding force as long as the act is interpreted. When the act itself is modified, the law is changed and therefore a new interpretation is sound for. Yes, and therefore a Supreme Court's decision is called as a law of the land only and until the law is not amended. So in all practical sense, whether Supreme Court is bigger or act is bigger, there is no right answer to it. In all practical sense, it is Supreme Court bigger unless and until the law is amended, because then the law becomes bigger. Because then the law is coming and saying it is not binding anymore. It's the classic case of Vodafone. Yes, when Vodafone judgment was not there, Supreme Court passed a judgment and he came and said it is applicable. Meaning, Supreme Court came and said anyone who's doing this transaction is exempt. That's when Act comes and says no, it is amended and therefore it is taxable. Now Supreme Court cannot come and say no, I want it to be exempt, because the Act itself comes and says it is taxable. In that case, you don't have an authority over it. Yes or no? Yes, a classic case of employees PF. I don't know how many of you are aware about it. 36158, where they come and say employees PF has to be deposited before the due date of respective act. Before the due date of respective act. Supreme Court passes judgment, comes and says you can pay it up to the due date of return filing also. Income tax comes and amends the law and comes and says it is hereby clarified that due date here means only respective act due dates. So now there itself coming and saying Supreme Court has read it wrong, which means now act becomes superior. Now Supreme Court cannot come and say no, I read it right only, because law itself comes and says it is better. Yes or no? Obviously. See, ICDS, I am not asking you because ICDS was an unconstitutional provision. Right? ICDS was a completely unconstitutional model. I am right now coming and talking about cases where it's there in the act, but Supreme Court has passed a different judgment. This is a complete unconstitutional provision. So that is not a conversation itself to have out. Clear enough, people? Yes, this is what the whole model works. But since you are in finals and you have to learn international taxation along with me, you will also realize that, Rahul, it is not just CIT alone which you will be learning along with me. There is also another person who will be working called as DRPs, which is called as Dispute Resolution Panel, which will take up cases relating to international taxation. Any transactions relating to non-residents or any transactions relating to transfer pricing will be a part of DRP model. Yes. Apart from this, Rahul, any other bodies which you will be learning in this provisions, you will be learning a few other bodies in Income Tax Act, which is called as, very good, WAR. Authority for advance ruling. Next. They're not appeals. They're all part of the income tax department. Next. Any other bodies? Abolished. Now it is called Dispute Resolution Committee. Settlement Commission has been abolished and now it is called as Dispute Resolution Committee. That is also part of your syllabus. And then you have something called as GAR panel. Then you have a GAR panel which basically discusses about your GAR provisions. These are all the people whom you will be working with. Yes, if you are moving on to the theoretical part of the international taxation, which is your treaty and everything, you will also have another person coming in called as competent authorities. Who take care of your treaty amendments, and take care of all your MLIs and all those things. Yes, MAPs, MLIs and all those things are taken care by competent authorities. Apart from that, you have someone called as CBDT, which prepares your APS. APS. When I ask you what, I don't ask for full forms.
TP cases we
Not just for TP, you can do it for section 9 also. You are entering into an advance agreement in order to determine your prices, your methods, and your scope of total income in the advance itself. Yes, this is in order to avoid litigations in the future. All these things, part of transfer pricing chapter, we will discuss all those things. These are all the committees you will be learning along with me in your syllabus model. Yes. Now, from an exam perspective, let me just clarify to you, Rahul, when it comes to court decisions, the 150 court decisions which are going to be discussing is only going to be relating to High Court and Supreme Court. You will not be discussing any decisions relating to ITAT or CIT appeals because those are still changeable. Those are still quasi-judicial courts and therefore they don't bind on it so much. Yes, it is like what happens is when ITAT passes one thing in Chennai, the Mumbai will pass a different judgment only. Standard practice. It is like if you have the same client sitting in Chennai and same client sitting in Mumbai, you will definitely see different disallowances coming in. And therefore, they do not rely on ITAT decisions. They wait more for High Court decisions. Now, ideally speaking, if you ask me, High Court is also not reliable. You technically should only look for Supreme Court decisions, but somehow, somewhere, if there is a computational thing which is like extremely significant, then they go for High Court also because 99% of the cases, people don't approach Supreme Court. Yes, people stop at High Court level because then they are like, you know what, if High Court has passed it, Supreme Court 99% will allow it only. Yes, it is very remote that a Supreme Court will pass a judgment contradictory to the High Court judgment. Very rarely. Yes, 99% of the cases, it will so happen that Supreme Court will not even take the liberty to read the case. In all the cases I have seen, what will happen is High Court will pass a judgment. The moment it goes to Supreme Court, it will go as an SLP. Yes, and in SLP, what you're normally supposed to do, you're supposed to hear the case. They will bloody not even hear the case. SLP will come one pager, and the pager will come and say, this is already discussed by High Court, SLP is thereby dismissed. Now you don't even know whether Supreme Court has allowed it or not allowed it. Because they've just dismissed it, they have not even passed a judgment. Which means tomorrow you cannot go to another person and come and say Supreme Court has allowed it. Because he's technically not allowed it, he's not even heard the case. Matter did not even come for hearing itself. Yes or no? So 99% of the cases, Supreme Court does not even have the authority to look into things. They summa waste time on things. Unless and until a really big shot like Hari Salve and all stands before him and come and says, read my case. Then they will hear it. Because then they know crores and crores of money are coming inside. Otherwise, they are not looking at the case itself. Yes, all these cases of employees, PF and all never reached to Supreme Court itself. It reached the High Court level and then Supreme Court level, they always looked at it and they came and said SLP is dismissed. So assessing officer is coming and saying High Court has allowed it, but Supreme Court has not allowed it. And the High Court which has allowed it is not Chennai High Court. So therefore, I don't look at it. They keep making disallowances and then you keep filing appeals. Yes or no? Yes or no? At a certain point of time, we went and we started bugging about it and then CACT itself came and said, you know what, forget it off. We will make it disallowance itself. I'm like, that is not what I asked. We asked for allowables. We didn't ask for disallowables. But that's how it works. Clear enough? Yes. This is what your whole basics of your law looks like, people. This is what your whole basics of your law looks like. If you understand this much, you're now done with CA Inter. You're not done with CA Inter. Yes. Starting tomorrow is what we're going to start CA Final. We're going to start from section number. We're going to start with section number 4. If you want to know an act, you need to know what is in the act. So which means it always starts with the charging section. In tomorrow's class, we'll be starting with section number 4, talking about your charging section, completing a little bit of a more basics on charging section and income tax specifics, answering a set of 3 case laws. Post which in the day after tomorrow's class, we'll be doing tax rates. Yes, we will do a little bit of sums and we will see if you are able to remember your inter. Yes, so we'll do a bit of sums and my sums, people, not your sums. My sums are different. So we'll do my level sums. Things which you cannot answer itself. All. We'll do companies this time. Yes, I'll give you more complex questions in companies. Yes, so we'll be doing sums relating to companies and everything. We'll be doing all those questions in the 3rd class. So yeah, I think today's Tuesday. So we'll be doing Thursday, Friday and Saturday. We'll be doing tax rates, special tax regime, 115, BAA, BAB, BAC, BAD and BAE. This is what will happen until Saturday. Sunday first half we'll be doing your financial statements review and Sunday second half we'll be starting with PGBP. We'll be starting with PGBP. 1. Yes. Just to give you a clarification, people, why are we jumping directly from tax rates to PGBP? Because Nadula Edumella. Salaries, HP, everything has been scrapped. Yes, so they are not part of the syllabus. I will give you a certain amount of notes also. Yes, relating to salaries and HP, I will give you a certain amount of notes because it is not part of syllabus, but still they will ask you it, and they will ask it in double taxation avoidance agreement. Yes, when you do your double taxation, that time they will be asking individual related questions. That time they will not ask you company related questions. So sometimes here and there they have asked you salary and HP related questions also. I will answer those things. So I will give you small notes relating to salaries and HP. Nothing what we learned in inter. Very basic notes. Very basic notes I'll be giving you for salaries and HP. And then we'll move to PGBP. From there we'll take it. From there we'll take it. That day things will become technical. That day things will start getting technical. Until then you are still with me as a child and you don't know direct tax. Let's work with that. Yes? Yes?
Yes, sir.
Come for tomorrow's class?
Yes.
Thank you people. Have a good day.